Uh, all right, well, let's begin. So if I could get a motion to enter a closed session for the purpose of discussing the provided reasons under Utah Code annotated 524205.
So move. Or second, whichever.
Okay, a motion
second.
by Councilmember Lunt, seconded by Councilmember Malkovich. Councilmember Hutchins?
Yes.
Councilmember Lund?
Yes.
Councilmember Hilliard?
Yes.
Councilmember Malkovich?
Yes.
Okay, we're closed.
It was long.
I mean, it's the whole CEMP.
Okay. All right, so we're ready to begin, Jody? Okay. So we will now begin the work session. And
Do we want to let Utopia know that we're ready?
yeah,
for
was
them?
that Nicole that was here?
Yeah, and we need to get her.
Okay.
That was a great way to start this meeting.
Sorry.
No,
Hey.
I think it was
Got the
great.
blood pumping.
That was a common conversation that we've all had to sit there and have, and it usually was us asking Dave questions or Carrie and them giving us the histories of the whole city. So it's kind of fun for you to be the one to ask the questions and all of us to give you the history. Chris, welcome.
How you guys doing?
Sorry to make you guys wait.
And are you Nicole?
I'm Nicole.
Okay, Nicole, you're the headliner. So
I
you
brought someone even better with me. This is Roger Timmerman. He's our
okay.
executive director. So
Okay, well, great. Well, welcome to both of you. And in your presentation, if you'll just be sure to speak into that microphone so that it will be recorded. Yeah, and if there's the green light.
Yeah, you
Yeah.
can join the Zoom meeting.
Yes.
But Jody will.
If I need to email something to someone, or if I can plug into something, or here.
You just stepped out.
Yeah.
Join the Zoom. Zoom.
Coming back.
Yeah, I can join the Zoom. Okay, first,
You can email it to me. I could put it up.
I do need Wi-Fi though. If I get on
There's a guest Wi-Fi that
Yes.
I don't.
Jody?
I don't
Jody?
know if it's
Jody?
password protected.
I'm just gonna look it up.
Yeah, mine is.
Yes.
You can see on your phone, you can go when you're connected and look at the password.
Oh, I don't even pay any attention. It just automatically connects. So
Well, it doesn't
never
say you
actually.
look at it.
Yeah.
Magic.
I know.
Go.
I read your CEMP.
Well, good.
And did you purposely put in there the mayor pro tem blah, blah, blah?
Yeah.
I know, I thought that was funny. That's one of my notes too.
I read the whole thing. and
I don't know if I put anything in this. Did I?
Blah, blah, blah. I
It was-
can't
it was
imagine
so
anybody
funny.
else putting blah,
I
blah,
have
blah
it.
behind your
It's
title.
page 32, section 4.2.
Yeah, I put it on there too.
I liked that.
Oh,
Yeah, that was pretty funny.
no, it's page
36.
36.
5.1.
5.1.
I was just looking at my notes thinking, I wrote it down as
That's
36.
something else.
Yeah.
I have a few
That
things.
So
uh,
are you all set?
I think so. If
it's Emily that put the blah, blah,
Chris will
blah.
probably see something show up in his email here in a minute, but it's been sent. So when you see something, if you can share that, and I'll just get started, I guess.
Okay.
So first thing, thanks for having us. I'm Roger Timmerman. I'm the executive director. Nicole Cottle is amazing. She's a lot of things. She's our general counsel, but also director of government affairs. She wears a lot of hats, but she has extensive background with us too. She was a board member for many years. She was assistant city manager with West Valley City for many years. She does a lot of work with Utah League of Cities and Towns, lots of things in public sector work, and she's awesome. Happy to have her here. And a big win to have her on the Utopia Fiber team. So excited to have her. So on the second slide, if you can, I'll just beep at you, Chris, I guess, each time I need a slide.
Can we make it the whole screen?
All right. And then the next slide.
Up or down.
Down or right. I think usually right arrow will flip it over to the next page. Or not.
You might be able to hit that down
Yeah, the
arrow in
down arrow
the
on the
bottom right corner.
Yeah, usually with the PDF, you can just like right arrow and it'll next page. Down will scroll, but I don't know.
He's a finance director. so-
Well,
He's also our IT guy, so,
Yeah.
I was gonna,
Thanks.
Chris's sake.
all right, well, let's go back into the history a little bit of this. I remember there was a time when you guys had really, really bad broadband, and there was a lot of kind of competing ideas out there. I think there was an idea maybe to pay CenturyLink to come in and upgrade their conduit system. They promised to provide a better service. We had some people say, hey, but with Utopia, maybe we could do something where there was open access and you had choice. And so we had lots of meetings. And I was impressed with how many people came, right? Like we go to these really big cities and 2 or 3 people would come. And I remember there'd be like 30 or 40 people. And it was like, you have a really great community here and really good involvement. But, you know, we kind of said, hey, we could do this. I think it ended up costing a little bit more than what the CenturyLink proposal was. But with this proposal with Utopia, you would own the system and you would own everything. It would be the conduit, the fiber, the electronics, and you'd forever kind of be in control of your broadband future. And so obviously that was appealing. And we were excited to work with you on that. And we were like, well, we think people will want it, and it'll show you how that's gone. You probably have an idea that it's been pretty popular, but I'll show you charts.
How many other cities have called, right, to say, can't believe you have that high of a take rate. Are you sure?
And it's actually a lot better than what we report. So I'll show you a map in this presentation of what it looks like. If you want to go to the next, this just kind of shows like there was the original cities, and then since we kind of wrapped up the original cities, but we've had a lot of growth, a lot of new partnerships. But you guys were the first ones on that list. Right now we're building out West Haven, Bountiful. But yeah, we're up to like 23 citywide projects now with fiber in about 70 cities. Idaho Falls.
Bozeman.
So,
Yeah, so you're extending beyond Utah.
Yeah, so like Idaho Falls Fiber, you call and talk to someone next to the phone, Idaho Falls Fiber, it's somebody in our office. We've partnered with them, so they felt like there was a lot of value in having their own brand associated with it. Whereas in Utah, we're happy to say, hey, this is the city, but it's also us. It helps us with the marketing to have Utopia Fiber on it, but at the end of the day, it's your system. If you want to call it Woodland Hills Fiber, you can do that too, and you have this nice partnership. In fact, Bountiful's done that. They have Bountiful Fiber powered by Utopia Fiber. Yeah, that's fine. Co-branded, but similarly, they own their own system, and we're the operator for that. The next slide, Chris. You probably don't care as much about the history generally with all the other cities, but Utopia, it was a kind of a tough decision for you guys at the time because we had a little bit of a rough reputation, right? Like we had these red years of struggles, and we had turned the corner and had success, but it was really hard to get away from that kind of stigma of our difficult times. But we did start doing those new city partnerships a little later there, 2018-ish or so. And everything we've done since then has broken even and been successful. And that's great. We're not a company. A lot of people think we're a company. It's like, well, no, we partner and grow, and if we can save costs and kind of benefit from economy of scale across all of our partners, that's great. And we're an interlocal entity. That's what we are. Next slide. A couple things that we're proud of. We're the largest open access network in the country, which is open access is that model where we build a single fiber network and then allow competing private providers on. This is the largest example of that in the country. Continue to grow. We have the fastest speeds in the country. We do have a couple others that are out there saying, "Oh, we've got a 25 gigabit." Like I think Chattanooga, Tennessee, launched a 25 gigabit service. We can do 25 gig. We actually have 100 gig customers, just not residentially. And we're actually bringing up our first 400 gigabit connection for a customer. We have a lot of 400 gig connections in our core to make it all work, but we have a 400 gigabit customer in the universities. So University of Utah, we work with them for connections to schools all over the state and all of the universities, but it's all kind of headquartered out of University of Utah with Utah Education Network. So we're doing that connection for them. So that'll be one of the biggest connections ever provided in the state. That should be up in the next month or so. We're the most competitive system. So when we were talking to you before, I don't know how many we had, probably like 10. We keep adding more companies. Some of them are local to you guys. So that's, we think that's a benefit to you. Fusion, their name? Fusion. They're based out of like Elk Ridge, I think. So they're local. It's nice because they can support you nearby. IntelliPop has come on since that time, and they're out of Payson.
Our residents who currently have one of the others that were one of the original 10, are they ever notified that there are other options out there in case their circumstance changes?
No. So, we don't proactively, like those companies, we kind of leave it them to market and try to differentiate. So I would be surprised if they're not doing some notification like, oh, hey, here we are. We're now on Utopia and sending, mailers and different advertising. I know
Got any.
IntelliPop was participating in some of the parades of cities around here. But yeah, it's kind of one of those spaces where it's kind of their area to
That makes sense.
make a splash.
If they went on your website, though, they would know that there were multiple choices.
Yep.
Like if we had something in the newsletter that says periodically, look and see.
Yeah, if you ever want that list, it's kind of live on our website as providers come and go. Usually they come. We've had some go.
Yeah. If they go, they do tell your customer.
Yeah,
we've gone.
We reach out and we're like, hey, you got to pick another provider. We've had that in some situations because your providers in default are out of business or something. We're the number one. So these are little number one awards on the left there. So number one in awards from the Utah Education Network. So we've been connecting more schools than any other provider. We don't have more than one other, but we are growing faster than any other. So over the last several years, we've been winning and expanding with the school systems, which we're really excited because that means that they're both saving money because we do have to win competitively, but we're also providing a very reliable upgraded service at the same time. So they're getting better, cheaper service from us whenever we can. We're number one in providing air quality sensors throughout Utah. So every time we install one of our cabinets or huts, we put in an air quality sensor. So you have a station here in Woodland Hills at the fiber hut around the corner. I don't know how you describe that area over there, but I just drove by it on the way up here just to kind of check in on things. It all looks like it's in good shape. So no red alarms or anything. It didn't burn down. We know that. Obviously, we watch it all the time remotely to make sure it's working. And there's a lot of capacity in there. So that facility, like I just went up, we just did an update with Morgan City. And Morgan City has 1,200 customers or so. And it's the same type of facility that they have supporting 1,200. And they still have some room for growth. We can support about, I think, probably 1,500 or so connections out of one of those huts. So you own that building, by the way, I believe. Maybe not. I can't remember exactly where it is, but you have a right to it if there was ever a separation. But just knowing that it's there and we can't move it, obviously. It's always here from the city. But knowing that you have capacity, I'm sure you don't want to go add another 1,000 homes, but there's been some incremental growth on the north end. So you're in great shape for future any future needs you have. We're number one in smart city solutions, and we just mean that by like we've been working with different research teams. Your wildfire camera was the first one we put in, and that was one we picked up and had a lot of development work done by the BYU team. That was kind of their capstone project. Since then, we've kind of upgraded and enhanced some things. It's up and running, I believe. Sometimes we got to go kick it, like it hangs up sometimes, or sometimes the software that's pulling the video feeds dies, and we're trying to get better about keeping that up and running. Obviously, right now we're in high fire season, so.
You ever get people who are worried about the word smart city? We get some calls about that because we understand what it means in fire detection, et cetera, air quality, but there's another kind of political meaning to it that is not really accurate for what you provide. How do you address that? Because I know how I do when I get the call about it, but
Yeah, so there's a couple things where we've taken a pretty firm stance. You know, they're like, well, we don't trust the government in our internet. And we're like, well, look, we're not the government. We're your local city, right? Interlocal. We do not monitor usage of internet in any way ever, right? We look at the amount of traffic on the network so we can upgrade and keep things up and running, but we don't know what anybody does. You know, like it's very protected and secure. So there's no like big brother concerns there. And then every time we do what we consider a smart city solution where it's like, hey, here's sensors or cameras or whatever, then there's obviously public privacy considerations in there. So, we've had some people like, hey, why don't we make it so people can like control the camera? And we're like, no, because they could abuse that and, zoom into someone's house or something. So we're like, okay, this will always just keep a remote view where there's no privacy concerns or anything like that. And if it's ever preempted, we're looking at some language where we would allow like your first responders to go in and control the camera after agreeing to this agreement that says you'll never abuse it and violate privacy or what, like those types of things. But just that consideration of we're delicate in enabling too much so that it doesn't get perceived as violating privacy or other big brother type. Yeah, those are the types of concerns you're getting, I'm assuming. We don't need to worry about us. Net Promoter Score, that's a consumer satisfaction survey score. So you've probably answered the question, like, would you recommend this service to a friend or colleague? And that, I don't mean relative to Utopia, but like all the time. Different services and companies use that question to calculate a net promoter score for their product. And we do the same thing. We do surveys and ask that question if they would, people would recommend it. And 63 is an excellent score, really good. Comcast is usually a big negative.
Imagine that.
The scale can go from very positive to even negative, where like, no, I would never recommend this. I only have it because I don't have any other choice, right? But Utopia does very well with that. Google ratings, we do really well. So we're 4.6 stars, which is the top in the state. That's even higher than Google Fiber. So I'm pointing that out. And then just some other awards. All right, next slide. Chris, if you would. Again, this is kind of the model. We have fiber and we let all these different companies come in and use it and compete with each other, which is great. Some of the beauty of this is most of these companies are local companies, right? And we're enabling these Utah-based companies to not just compete with, but just absolutely destroy, I shouldn't say destroy, win over the big incumbent cable and telephone companies, right? I mean, Lumen, CenturyLink is publicly traded, Louisiana-based company. Comcast is publicly traded, based out of Philadelphia, right? These little Utah-based companies they beat them hands over fist, right? Provide way better service, better cost, local service. It benefits our local economy. Their employees are local. You call someone, you get someone local. Like there's just a lot of benefit of this whole ecosystem of helping out not just our cities and consumers, but the businesses and the economy. All right, next slide. Our architecture is a little different even from other fiber networks because we are open access. We give everybody their own connection. So as I go back to that fiber hut, I've got a fiber from every single one of your houses coming into that building. Um, that's not the way other fiber providers work. So even like, using Google as an example, but they're a good example. CenturyLink, Google, all of those guys use what's called a PON technology, and that's basically like a cable network, but with fiber, where an entire neighborhood shares one connection. And if your neighbors are hogging it at 10 o'clock at night, it slows down, and they're like, "That's okay, that's good enough for the consumer." We're like, "No, that's not good enough." Everybody needs full speed all the time, and the nature of open access, where we have different companies competing with each other. Like, I don't want a customer of X Mission being interfered with by a customer of First Digital. Yeah, so we make sure that it always works 100% of the time at full speed, and it does cost a little more to do it that way, but it's the best way to do it. So we're very proud of our network. Next slide. Now we built this thing a number of years ago, and technology changes quickly. But the beauty of this, remember, this was a kind of a long-term investment, is that the fiber asset, which is 90% plus of the investment, has a 50-year plus life cycle. But technology can easily be upgraded and refreshed over time, and we have done that. And so there hasn't been any cost to the city, but we have enabled 2.5 gig and 10 gig services throughout all the Utopia areas. And so these are new offer. I think 10 gig was available, but we just introduced a better price for that. So the price has come down dramatically, and there's a new 2.5 gig option that's now available. That's I don't remember what the price is on that. Your pricing is a little different because you don't pay for the infrastructure fee. The city kind of paid off that thing. Normally people pay $30 for the fiber, and then anywhere from $50 to $100, depending on what tiers they get. In your city, you only pay that piece. It's really nice. You get a really good deal here. But that makes that even more competitive in the city. Let me just pull it up real quick. It's a good number, like especially with how your pricing is especially good. I would be very confident saying that you have the best priced 10 gigabit internet available anywhere in the country. So that's really the driving point. So let's see, 10 gig from Sumo, for example, they offer, let's see, 10 gig for 120 and 2.5 gig for 67. Now you might think, hey, 120 is a lot. And it's a little bit higher, but I mean, cable customers with terrible service are often paying that much money. So you get the ultra premium 10 gig service for that price point is amazing. And it's the best price we've seen on any system in the country. All right. And then we continually are refreshing the technology, and your network supports all of that. And we just keep seeing more stuff. So you've got your like a augmented reality thing. That's the Apple Vision Pro on the bottom left. On the bottom right, you have AI just being represented in that. These are technologies that are expected to dramatically increase internet bandwidth use. And we're good to go. So any of those technologies that people want to participate on, they're good today, and 10 times and 100 times fold. We'll be able to keep up with the bandwidth with the existing fiber. When I talked about that 400 gigabit connection we're providing, that fiber is the same fiber we have to every house in Woodland Hills. So our ability to do that type of stuff is already here. It's awesome. All right, next slide. This just kind of shows the growth of Utopia. We just surpassed about 67,000 subscribers. I don't care about that, but we're pretty excited about how people like it. Obviously, we have to be doing a decent job for people to sign up and get connected. So things have been going really well. But it does show that we're a reliable partner too, right? We're not like dying off or struggling or anything. We are doing better than we ever have been as an organization, and you guys are part of that. Small part, but an important part. So next slide, Chris. This is by city. You guys are that bottom line. Which is a really, really great line. It's just in the context of all these doesn't look Great. So the next one will show you just your city. So this one shows the build out of the system. So the first part of the city, you could start getting services in March of 2019. And then we kind of finished out some areas and we're basically done with the availability anywhere in the city. And that's just a small delta there between 520 and 570. There was just some pockets there, but really that's when we had it done. Next slide. And then we saw people sign up very quickly, but it didn't stop. I mean, we got to 250, but since 250, we've had another 100, right? So, I mean, over the last 4 years. Yeah.
No, I'm saying that's why we signed up quick.
It went
So
quick.
that we all have
Yeah.
Central.
Weren't a lot of other good options.
I have two services at my house. The CenturyLink and that stupid little dish.
And it was still terrible.
Oh,
Yeah,
both
we
of them
had-
were horrible.
We had this one, it was awful.
Okay, next slide. So this actually shows customers. So the red ones are residential services and blue dots are non-residential, which could be anything. It could be church or city connection or something like that. And there's a handful of those. But when you actually look at this, our reporting shows you, I don't know exactly, 60-something% take rate, but we're counting parcels. And there's a lot of parcels that don't have a house on them. And that's just the way our GIS teams have managed things, which in most cities doesn't make a big difference. But in this city, it does, because really we have every house. Like if we actually looked at an actual house that uses broadband or a potential broadband subscriber, there's only a few on this map that don't have it. Like you're at like 95+%.
Question for you, because I saw that you had Centracom on as one of your partners, and Summit Creek has Centracom. So
Yeah.
is it separate or has it been integrated into the whole
It's
system?
separate. They get the privilege of paying more service and not having choice.
That is
That
one
was
of
a
the
deal
partners.
they struck before, but yeah, Centracom their service is available on Utopia in the city-owned network, but it's available only on Centracom-owned network in Summit Creek. I've talked to
Well, Ben's right there. He's in charge of it. So right, because, but you don't have, but.
Yeah, but what do you pay every month? Through the HOA or?
No, she does it through you.
Okay,
She
I was
does
like,
it
that's
through
our
you.
price. That's phenomenal. And my understanding is they were paying like 80 to $100 or something a month.
That too.
Summit Creek.
Explain yourself, Ben.
Well, I mean, our system isn't available there. Like if I lived in that street, right, I would get Centracom because it's the best option. That happened before we did this project, right? So
Right.
it was kind of, we reached out at the time, like, can we buy this out? Can we do? And they were like, no. I got several responses from them of, we're not interested. A couple years after we built this, I did have some conversations with Centracom, and they're like, yeah, we don't really like this network. We would like to sell it. And we said, how much would you sell it for? And they said, we need to figure that out. And then they never got back to me. So there is a potential if we keep working on that maybe we could bring them in. And I mean, we could take over that fiber network and plug it in. Like I said, there's plenty of capacity in our system for it.
I was just noticing that's where the red dots aren't.
Yeah, so we didn't. It was always the position we shouldn't go in there. 'Cause even if we built it in there and could connect those homes, they don't have the choice to not get that service.
Right.
Like two things have to happen. They have to get unobligated from the HOA bulk contract, and then we could come in and do something, right?
Okay.
Okay. So anyways, I looked at the map and I'm like, yeah, our reporting is not accurate based on that parcel data. Because these are real accounts that pay for the service. And yeah, we pretty much have, there are a couple that don't, but it's almost every time. All right, next slide, Chris. I want to just cover the outage recently and what happened there. So this was on June 25th. So at 9:20 in the morning, the network disappears. Like, what happened? It's gone. And so we send a technician up here to take a look at it. And so they're driving around and they've got tools where they can plug into the fiber and it says, hey, this is, we're supposed to go a couple miles, but it only goes 1,000 feet. We're like, okay, I'll drive a couple blocks and see if I can figure it out. But driving around, they found it. They found that the road construction along, is it Elk Ridge Drive or something like that? They whacked it, and it had been marked properly. They just screwed up, and they got a thorough chewing out and a bill for the repair. But it happens. I mean, they don't. We deal with that every day, to be honest, right? Our network is so big. There's somewhere, backhoe somewhere is always breaking our network, and we got to go fix it. But anyways, so we responded immediately, sent someone out, took them some time to figure out exactly where it happened, and then they've got to, what do we do? This is a mess. This wasn't just a, scissor cut, right? They had ripped this conduit out. There's pictures on the next slide. So they put together a plan and sent out the different crews. There's different jobs. So that red dot is where it happened on on the road there. You can see that little thing there.
Elk Ridge Drive, yeah, where it's closed.
And the underground stuff's usually pretty safe, right? I mean, these were not aerial things that got hit by a truck or something. This is underground. But yeah, they really did a number on the conduit and ripped at it and then pulled at it even too. So we had to replace a section of conduit, and then they got to pull new fiber in, and then they put in 2 new splice enclosures and had to make splices, which is where they have this equipment that lines up the glass strands and melts them together. It actually takes quite a bit of work to do all of that stuff. It's not as easy as just cut it and stick a connector on and plug it in. It's pretty sophisticated equipment. Anyways, they did all that work and got it up. On the last slide, what time did it say it was back up at?
3 something.
We provided a 4:30 ETA, but they got it done at about 3:27 p.m. We would love fiber that was backhoe proof, but they haven't invented that yet. But I mean, we know that was a very painful day for the residents of the city, but we responded immediately. We fixed it, and for a once in a 5-year period, that's pretty good still.
Yeah, I thought it was very responsive. So I think that you guys really nailed it on that one.
And it wasn't our fault. There's if it was one of our guys who screwed something up and broke it, that'd be one thing. And we're like, oh, crud. But, there's going to be things like this that happen when a third party damages. What we can do is respond and take care of it. And, again, part of the benefit of being part of the partnership with Utopia Fiber is we have those resources that can move quickly and get things up and running. Because, like I said, it's not a simple repair, but they were right on top of it, got it back up, and hopefully not too many angry people at us.
But your network is so broad now, and it's getting wider. Do you have multiple locations where you have repair crew, or do they all come out of Salt Lake?
We have 3. Well, it depends. I mean, because we have our Bozeman region, we have Idaho Falls, we have a north team, a central team, and a south team for covering the counties up here, and then we have a south St. George. So we have technicians that are spread out, but these crews, we had one of our main contractors do most of this work, and a different contractor do splicing. So the technician was our local person, but then the others came out of Salt Lake to do the work.
It was pretty fast, so that's great.
We would like to have redundancy, at least to the fiber hut. That's typically our goal, is to have redundancy. When we first looked at this project, it was looking like it was going to cost like another $1 million to get a route, because we were up in Spanish Fork, and that doesn't come here to connect. It goes west and then into Payson. So we've always been looking at that like, hey, what would it take to get from Spanish Fork to come down and get connected to have full redundancy? We bring that conversation up every so often with Brian Perry at Spanish Fork, because we're like, we'd rather just get some fiber from you guys, and then we'd have a much shorter section. Like, we don't do those types of deals anymore. So if you got some friends in Spanish Fork City, maybe nudge them a little bit, like, hey, we'd really like to figure something out and get some fiber so we don't have to build it. I mean, they have it for most of that distance. But they don't like it when other people call them at 3 a.m. if there's a problem, and then they have to respond. We'll pay you. So I don't know. We haven't figured that out. It's something on the to-do list. Definitely where we now have it built out and almost everybody in the city has the service. It's a little more important now than it was when we were contemplating this network. But we'll keep kind of poking and prodding at options there and trying to find a way to do it cost effectively, but $1 million is probably too steep. I mean, we would come back to the city and say, is this worth $1 million for the city to have redundancy? And I'd recommend probably not, and give us some flexibility to keep working and trying to find a way that, maybe we could lease some fiber from Spanish Fork and then build a section or something and find something, maybe 50 grand or something. If we could get it in 50 to 100 grand, I think it's a no-brainer. But it's easy for me to say, but
Well, I would
that-
say that given that you've only had the one major outage and got it up and running in a relatively short time, $1 million is a big price tag for something like that.
I agree. We're willing to compromise some of the reliability when the solution is ridiculously expensive. So we're trying to find something that works.
We had I don't want to interrupt. Sherry, did you have something you wanted to?
I think so. I think we provide a connection up there for cameras.
We're waiting to get the power up there.
Yeah, we have
We have
five.
fiber.
Now we do. Yeah.
Yeah, because you had some trespassing issues and stuff up there, right? So people like to keep using their water.
Yeah.
So yeah, I remember that was a
Mostly
project
kids who
specifically
wanna
to
play.
get cameras working up there. And so,
Yeah.
From our perspective, I think the connectivity's there. I think that's the last. Chris, if you just go next, I think that's just the last slide. Yeah. So that's what we had to share. We're interested in any questions or feedback or anything. I mean, if we think you guys are happy with how this has all come out and how it's being supported, is there anything we can do to help you or
I think it's one of the best
Features.
things the city's ever done. So I have nothing but praise for the network. So I think it's been awesome. And the timing was really
yeah,
good.
it's perfect.
To
Right
the,
before
yeah,
COVID.
right before everything shut down.
That is true, and we, through the course of time, since we were one of those first little city partners afterwards, and lots of cities have said, how did it work? Are you sure all your residents are okay? Is this take rate right? And just verifying with us, and luckily we've been able to say, yes, all of that is correct. So we appreciate that partnership, coming in to own our system with something that people were a little nervous of. But we felt really strongly at the time, the council at the time felt really strongly that people should have choice. And that the city should be able to be responsible for those choices and changes if needed. And there were some tough decisions that were made, but Chris held our hands as we made it. And and I think our residents are really pleased. So thank you.
Thank you. We
And
feel
thanks for your
mutually
time.
Like it's been great. Good mutual.
Yeah, can you guys hear me?
Which is
Oh,
what we
yeah.
like.
Now we can.
Oh, great. Roger, what about, I think Centricom, their fiber directly up Woodland Hills Drive, Spanish Fork, can we tap into theirs as a redundancy?
Oh, you must have missed that part. We talked about that.
Well,
No, not on
we
the
talked about
redundancy
Spanish
side.
Forks fiber, but Centricom also has
Oh.
fiber too there, and they're another one that we've done dark fiber swaps and leases with them in the past, and they've been problematic. So they're a plan B. So they're really good at
Yeah.
maintaining their fiber for themselves, but they're not. They don't typically provide services to other broadband providers.
Hmm.
And so I think because we have some fiber of theirs that we use, and they don't understand like notifying people in advance of maintenance windows or things like that. So we get random outages on it that they don't tell us about. So until they grow up to be a more like carrier level company, we don't prefer to use their fiber. They don't know how to work with others well. If that makes sense. I mean, we like the people; they're great people, and they provide good service. But to their customers, but to other broadband providers, it doesn't meet our standards.
All right. Well, we appreciate both of you taking the time to come and give us that overview. And again, a great partnership and thanks. Keep it going.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Okay, nice to meet you. Next item is the discussion and review of the comprehensive emergency management plan. Is Emily online?
She is under the impression that per your conversation that we did not need her. Yeah, her message to me was, I talked to Jody yesterday and today about it. Won't be able to make it in person, but I can join over Zoom if needed. It was my understanding that I would not be presenting or talking during the work session or council meeting. Sorry. So
So
I
if
don't
you wanna-
expect her.
So if we
Our
get
notes, who's
changes,
gonna change, make the changes, are you gonna write it all down
Sure, I can write everything down.
or type it all up? But, okay.
yeah, because I thought she would just type it in how she has her screen and she can change things immediately. I kind of like that because then
CMP plan in the packet,
we would know it's been changed and before the vote.
I mean, the blah, blah, blah.
Oh, come on.
Are you going to reach out to her, Ben, and see if she can join in or?
Because we can push it back, right? If she can join in a minute.
Yeah, no, we can move on and then come
I
back.
think we have a couple things on.
Yeah.
Give her a minute.
So if you would reach out to her and just see if she's available and then what time, and then we'll just circle back to that. All right, then let's go on to item 3 and turn the time over to Ted regarding the discussion and recommendation to award West Loafer Road Connection Project.
The long read. Ed. 68
Doctor?
pages for us.
What's going on, Ted?
Yeah,
Yeah.
sorry, I had a flu bug for 3 or 4 days, and I thought it'd be really fun to see how many council members I could infect, but my wife had a better thought, so I put the mask on.
Thanks.
Thought
I was
better
in
of
the
you, I
fire
guess,
truck
than I
with him
do.
today.
Yeah, Brian's
Get this
Brian's
guy
out of
a
luck.
mask.
He's out of luck. So we bid out the West Loafer project to complete that road down there. And we had 4 contractors that submitted bids on time and were present for the bid opening. One that misread the notification he got and was an hour and a half late. So we couldn't accept his bid. But we took the 4, which was unfortunate. They've been doing a road for us and doing a good job, but unfortunately, we have to go by what the state procurement requires us. So we got the 4 bids. Hall Engineering and Construction came in as the low at 329 and some change, 329,975. Yeah, there's about 100 and what, 50,000-ish difference between the two. And that's kind of the nature of the market. I mean,
How busy they are.
yeah, it depends on how busy they are or how hungry they are. And it used to be they all came in high, and one time they were all competitive. Now it kind of bounces all around the last year or two.
And do you take into consideration too, that contingency? We have a certain percentage in there.
Not on their bids, we don't. Their bids are just straight up what we bid schedule. So we put out a bid schedule
They put
of
that
all the
in
work.
there. It does.
No, they bid on the actual bid schedule we give them. So we give them quantities for all the work and they bid on everything. I always plan on about 10% in changes in the budget, just because you're going to maybe find some things that weren't aware of. So
There's that.
329, if you plan on another 10% of that is probably what we would have.
That's, I guess. that
What we
was my
could have in
question.
change orders, but
This is the bid that you will put in the extra as contingency in the budget.
we do, and it just comes out of our budget.
Did
We-
you look at estimated completion dates with these? Was that a part of your selection process at
Yep.
all?
Well, we gave them a completion date.
Oh, you
So they
gave them-
we told them that it has to be completed by, I want to say it was November 15th.
Okay.
because paving season usually ends around
Oh, yeah, yeah. That's
November
what
1st.
I was worried about someone stretching it out.
And it might have been
into
December
next year,
1st
so-
because as long as they have the paving done by around November 1st, they take a month to finish everything else out. That's fine, depending on snow. But
Doesn't asphalt plants usually
Shut.
close November 15th?
they so their
October.
their unofficial deadline is October 15th, but it's all weather dependent. They'll stay open as long as the weather will stay good enough. Spec says you have to be 50 degrees and rising to pave. So as long as those temperatures are holding out, they'll stay open as long as they can.
Yeah.
So Hall Engineering Construction came in as the low. We did have our engineer do some, as you'll see, they sent us a recommendation letter. They checked all the numbers, they dug into them a little bit, found everything was legit. So,
I like the review from Spanish Fort that they got and recommendations. I don't know if you guys read that, but they had some recommendations in there. Are we planning to have Jones and DeMille run the project, or are you running the project?
they're going to have some limited involvement with me, both of us,
Okay.
basically.
All right.
Yeah. So, and I even was talking to one other contractor who asked who got it. It's one that we use for our on-call stuff. And he said Chad Hall, who is the son that runs the company now, said he's a pretty good guy. So anyway,
Chris,
let's-
did you have something you were going to say? Oh, I thought you were interjecting.
so what we look for is just a recommendation to award the project to All Engineering Construction and also authorize the mayor to sign the construction agreement. The next step is we'll send them a notice of award, meaning we're going to award them the project. And then they have some documents they have to get in place. Once they send us those, then we put together the agreement, sign the agreement, send them a notice to proceed, and let them get started on the work.
Excellent.
Do you anticipate that they'll start?
It's kind of up to their schedule, but sooner we can get through this, then we got to give a notice to proceed first. So.
Okay, any questions? Thanks, Ted. All right, I know that the next one fits in perfectly, but since Emily's on, we'll get back to you if that's okay, on the
Oh,
agreement.
no, I would jump to her first too if it were me.
Hi, Emily, thanks for sorry
Hi, sorry I
for
couldn't be
the
there in
confu-
person.
Yeah, no, we're glad that we get you even this way. All right, so there were a few comments regarding the plan, but I guess did you have anything you wanted to mention in advance? If not, I'll just invite the council to give their recommendations or concerns or so forth, questions.
No, I think you guys have done really great. We've worked on this for a while, and I think we've included all the stakeholders' voices as we were making it. And so I'm really proud of you guys for getting to this point. So any questions you have, just let me know.
Okay, great. Thank you. And thanks for all your time. Brian, did you have anything for it?
No, I'll let the English people,
Okay, Janet?
other than blah, blah, blah.
Yeah, no blah, blah, blahs.
So on page 32, section 421, it's just talking about large expenses. I just wondered, within our city, lots of times if we have large expenses, we vet them through the finance committee. So I didn't know if we should add that in there, or if we would just do it internally. Something I thought of when I was reading it.
I would say that in an
Emergency
emergency
preparedness.
situation, it might,
And this is
time might be more of an
after-
essence.
Yeah, this wasn't like, anyway.
So what was the question?
We can do that internally. That was kind of more of a question for us. So hang on.
Okay.
Yeah, I mean, I would say that whenever it's practical for large expenses, that
I think
is
that could
worth
just
doing.
probably be an internal thing, but that was just a thought I had when I was reading that one.
Yeah,
So that could probably be more of an internal thing that we do.
no, I think that's a good suggestion.
And then on page 36, section 5.1.1, Carrie and I had the same one on that one. It says blah, blah, blah.
Says Mayor Pro, Tem, blah, blah. We
Can
just,
we- Yeah,
we We
So-
figured you were just
blamed
trying
me
to
for
get us
that.
to read it.
It's all Ben's fault. We know it's Ben's fault,
Because he's the
Emily.
mayor pro tem, so we.
He's mayor pro
put that
tem.
on him.
That's in section 5.1.1.
Yeah,
Okay, I'm pulling it up right now.
if you could take that out, that was,
It's Tim blah blah, just so you guys know.
It is.
Oh, yeah. Yeah, yeah, yeah.
I'll make sure I adjust that.
Anyway, that's all.
Okay,
I read all, it was good.
thank you.
Oh,
Carrie?
good.
I have, of course, read it several times and appreciate all the work that you have helped us with on Emily on getting this to this place. This is really amazing. We were required in 2019 to have one, and so to get to this point is amazing. I had a couple of things more with regards to the idea of the NGOs page. I'm trying to figure out if I wrote down the page on the document or the page that's at the top of my screen. So the first one was page 27 on the document. I would like it spelled out, voluntary organizations active in disaster. I think that's an important aspect to recognize that it's different than spontaneous volunteers.
Mhm.
And so I would just like to add that in as voluntary organizations active in disaster and then put the acronym of VOAD.
What page was that?
27.
Okay.
Under stakeholders.
Okay.
They're non-governmental organizations, the NGOs.
Hmm.
So,
Voluntary organizations
it's,
active in disaster, VOAD is the acronym.
so are you saying to the exclusion of other volunteer organizations?
No, that covers just about everyone. That's and so there's a difference in volunteers who come. There's there's voluntary organizations that covers Red Cross, Salvation Army, also some interfaith groups. It covers a lot of different volunteer organizations. Their VOAD is recognized by the state Department of Emergency Management. They have it in their emergency management plan, as does FEMA. They're partners with, and so all of the voluntary organizations that are a part of and recognized by the state and by FEMA are in that group.
Right,
So
so
we
but that
don't-
is a limiting, you're
Well-
narrowing the definition of volunteer organizations then.
It
I mean,
pretty well
you-
covers all the voluntary organizations. Then there is separate volunteers, which is different because they're not an organization. They're not an NGO. So
So I
separate.
think what
volunteers.
Carrie's saying is NGOs can be VOADs, so VOADs is just a lot more inclusive if we change that.
It just helps because of the partnership that the state already has and FEMA has. That sometimes when those organizations come in, then that helps you because they already have an ESF number that they work with, and so it can count a little bit more towards some of the match that comes in because they're already recognized on those two different levels with regards to grant and funding afterwards. Yeah.
Yeah, Emily, do you have any, what would your thought be on including both?
Like I said before, VOADs include NGOs, so non-governmental organizations. I think it would be maybe a little repetitive, but if you want to include both just to cover your bases, that totally works as well.
Well, I mean, I don't know what scenario it would become an issue. I guess I don't want to unnecessarily have to pull from a specific list if there are other needs. That's the only thing I'm saying
All of the organizations we used during the fire were VOAD partners.
right, no, I have no doubt that it's a
So-
comprehensive list,
Yeah.
but does it
I
harm
just
us
think
to
it
be
helps
more
us because then
inclusive?
so one of the things that the VOAD has in the state is one phone number that then the mayor or emergency manager can call and say, we are having this disaster. which NGO do you recommend has the services to help us immediately? And that's one phone number. So you don't have to reach out to every single one individually and say, what do you have and what can you offer?
By
It's
not
already
putting it in
there.
here, would we not be able to make that phone call?
No, you'd still be able to. It just helps the people as we go forward to recognize, oh, I got to remember, I can call one number to get that as an organization. It's a lot of cities in the state have that designation in there just because it helps to streamline the process when you're in the emergency. And again, it also helps with that partnership with the state and federal because they're already recognized.
Yeah, no, I think that flagging it as a resource is a good idea. I just don't want to take out the other sort of umbrella that covers parties that might not be on that.
Couldn't we
list.
use it just as a resource on the back end where we mention
I-
various resources and just put that there?
Yeah, we could do that too. I had that recognized on page, I think, let me look which page that
And I'd
was.
have no problem with it just saying faith-based organizations, FBOs, service groups, you know, VOAGs, and volunteer organizations.
Okay,
Okay.
I mean,
well,
organizations kind of includes VOADs because they're volunteer organizations.
Redundant, but it doesn't hurt having words in there.
Yeah, I'd,
all right. Well,
I
then,
think Eddie was objecting, so I don't know why.
I-
not,
yeah, but the only objection, I guess, or the only question would be, do we want both then? So do we want to include both?
well,
Is there any objection to including both is, I guess, what my question
I
is.
guess we have
So-
some redundancy already in terms
Yeah.
that we specifically on page 38 is another place I thought we could say NGOs and, I mean, under the NGO, the VOADs, FS6, FS7, FS11, where we put some of those other non-governmental organizations in there and exactly which of the numbers that they come under, that it might be helpful
What
there
page was
because all of those people on there are a member of VOAD already, but there are then a whole bunch of others. So we wouldn't want someone coming in to look at this list and think, okay, there's 4 people to call, when there's really hundreds to call. And that are under all of the different ESF numbers. So I would think that we would add another category in there that could say VOAD's there and put in those VOAD numbers so that whoever is calling would recognize which ESF number is also there, is available. Because all of these people on this list are a VOAD partner. But again, there's hundreds of others that do things like Team Rubicon came and helped us, right? A lot to cut with the trees because they're sawyers. So they have the ability to come in and help us after our fires. And they're not listed, so you wouldn't know to call them per se. But if you had the VOAD partners under there, then you would be able to call and say, this is our need. Who is in the VOAD partnership would we be connected with?
Okay.
So it's helpful because we don't want just to limit ourselves to those 4 that are under 5.5.
If I could make a suggestion, I could include in 5.5 before the table starts, that these are just some of the organizations available to assist the city. And then perhaps, I don't know who said it, but they talked about on the back end, including the contact information and just having that VOAD contact listed, perhaps in your appendix or in any kind of like response.
Right. I get that. And I appreciate that. I think that the contact information would be fabulous. The same with the acronyms, adding VOAD in there so people know what that means. But I feel it's really important that when we're looking at what are those non-governmental organizations, that the VOAD partners are represented, because it is literally hundreds of people that could be potentially, depending on what we need. And I think that would
Could we
be
just say
important.
somewhere in there to see an appendix with all those? I mean,
Because nobody's
one
going to
thing
flip through the appendix.
one thing is when you're going through a plan, emergency plan, you don't want to take the time to go through dozens and hundreds of pages, right?
No.
Because it just being an emergency response on it. I mean, the quicker you can get through stuff and then you get the resources to help you. But if you have that immediate, okay, I need to see, I'm looking for this information. Okay, turn to this appendix. Then you're going right to where you need to be. I think it just helps you move through things quicker and not get so overwhelmed and lost in the report because it's so comprehensive. You know, you just kind of, if it gets too convoluted in the actual
Right.
report, I think you kind of toss it out.
Well, that's
Whereas
why I
if you
thought,
put an appendix or something that you can just quickly reference.
that's why I thought that would be a catch-all in 5.5 to say there are all of these partners with this one, with all of the EFS that we've listed out with all of these others that are also in that organization to be able to provide a whole bunch of things as well.
So
Still have the
VOAG's
contact
a
information.
shortcut.
Yes,
right?
it's a shortcut.
It's a one point of contact to hit
For
100
hundreds of
people
people.
instead of having to go down
Yep.
a list. So I just
Yep.
think in the contact list and in the protocols, you know, per situational, like we've talked about, you know, VOAG is part of those protocols because I think that's what we'll pull from, less the CEMP. I think the CEMP in my mind, and you know, you guys can all correct me if I'm wrong, is preparation, and it talks about these phases where we're at. You know, if we jump up to the top here, you know, because there's the response, the recovery, the mitigation, and the preparedness. I feel like the CEMP really falls into mitigation and preparedness when there's not an urgency. We're planning for the future, and then we have hand out short lists protocols that are when there's urgency that we pull from. We've already studied, we know what's there. Then we have quick reference guides that we execute on, and those would be great places for that, you know, VOAG information. When, you know, you called me and say, Ben, I need this or XYZ, I've got a quick list of what to do, right? To offer you, and then you direct me on what to do or what to gather resources on and all that. But I think that's a helpful piece of information for us to have. Now, having it embedded here, you know, a quick reference, it just says, hey, VOAG, then it's called out for when we're studying on it. Great. And then it's in those quick sheets for when it's urgent time.
Okay, so I guess so you want it specifically listed on page 27. And are you disagreeing with that? Or
No.
are you saying, so
I
let's
think
just put it there then.
including VOAG and then having it, that number referenced, and then understanding, you know, it's a shortcut to a long list. You know, we don't need to put the long list in there.
Right.
And then I think that'll help also as I get, you know, the person who replaces me on a more full-time basis and a long-term basis, then we'll be able to move quickly with them being educated quickly and being up to speed quickly. Really, it comes down to when there's an emergency, we have the information that we need.
Right.
This is the first step in that process, not the last step.
Okay, so Emily, does that give you direction? Or is it still a question mark?
Yeah, no, that gives me direction. I fully support what Ben said. The CEMP, this is your base plan, so it's going to be very general, high level view of everything. And then when you want to get into the weeds with those kinds of details and contact lists with emails and phone numbers and things like that, that would be more in your EOC guide or position checklists or other kinds of SOPs and guides for specific things that you would do during response. So like this is just kind of a high level overview rather than a step-by-step what you do during response.
Right. And that was my intent to bring it up. It's to showcase that there is a space so that someone would even have the idea to, oh yeah, remember, go to the contact list and look.
For sure.
Yeah. And the only other thing was then to add it to the acronyms at the end in 6.2.
Correct. So I'm thinking based on what everyone has said, for 5.5 non-governmental organizations, I can add on a sentence there about for more information on volunteer organizations in disaster, see the EOC guide or other SOP materials. Do you all feel that would kind of cover it without being?
I do. I
We
think
got
that would
two
cover it.
nodders.
Yeah, so
Nodding.
it's voluntary
Four nods.
organizations active in disaster is what it stands for. Just to get
Okay.
it as you're writing your sentence. But yes. So thank you with that. And then the only other thing I had was on page 30, under Be Ready Woodland Hills, there was just this blank space, and I didn't know if we wanted to have a description of anything there or if we're leaving that open. I didn't know if that was
Did they
intentional.
change their name?
No,
So I
I think
hear-
that's probably we need to update that.
Okay, that was the only thing.
We need to eliminate Be Ready Woodland Hills, Emily, from that line item. Because
Okay.
they're for a city entity, though they are a valuable resource to which we will utilize, they're not a city.
But this is under
Department.
partnership, so wouldn't it, community outreach, wouldn't we put it as a Be Ready Woodland Hills community group instead of, it's not under the city, but it's still called that?
We could put it
Because
there.
Red Cross isn't under our city and neither
No,
is
you're right.
Salvation Army. I mean,
We
none
could
of
put
those
in the
are.
description there, Emily, then just put it as Woodland Hills Community Organization.
Okay.
Yeah, I mean, to me, that's kind of an endorsement in some respects. And I actually think your first instinct.
Well, I don't agree in the sense of I do think because the header of this document mandates that we review this every single year in April. We just know if they're no longer an organization within the city.
I
'Cause I
guess I
also
just have
don't
some
think-
concerns equating them with the American Red Cross, Salvation Army. I
The
mean,
school.
yeah, I mean, I just think it's really elevating a very small organization to a position that it just doesn't have the resources to address.
I don't know if I see that it hurts in any capacity or puts them, I think
And
it,
this table is just examples of programs that help support your community engagement. And so it's not like a finite list. It's not like if it's not on there, they can't help, or if it is on there, they have to help. It's just
No, I know.
examples.
I concern is more the elevation of it to some of these other global organizations but
Emily,
I'll defer to you on that, Ben.
is this where you would put in
I-
like a city who has a CERT team or something like that are, unofficial volunteers that go through some sort of training? I mean, a lot of cities do have CERT teams. We used to have a CERT team here in Hills. That
Yeah,
was-
so this is where you would put a
this-
certain.
Yeah, so it's very similar, and if we had a CERT team still, it would be in this spot. And that's why I think I'm with Ben.
I think the
it'll-
difference with CERT though is that you have to go through a class and be certified in those kinds of things. So they're kind of like a vetted volunteer. And I'm not really sure what direction Be Ready Woodland Hills has taken. I was only involved in the very beginning, its very beginnings. So I kind of see both sides of it on, hey, this isn't quite the same as like American Red Cross, but at the same time, it is a bunch of volunteers from your city, just like a faith-based organization if your wards wanted to help. And those are also listed. So it could kind of go either way.
I feel it's a slight recognition of the work that they're putting in with kind of, we pushed them away. I don't want to push them too far away because they are doing stuff. They are meeting routinely. I feel like they're working hard, and I think in a massive crisis, we would potentially lean on them if it made sense.
Okay, well,
Because they're local.
I mean, this is a council vote, so I guess Janet, Brian, do you
Like
have
Emily
any
said here, it's
opinion
just
about this?
examples.
Because we wouldn't use all of
It's
them
not-
anyways.
We're not being tied to utilization or requirement to use any of these.
Right,
It's just potentials.
yeah,
And
no, I
they
get
are a
that.
potential. So I just put in the description, community group.
Community volunteers.
So not by name, just,
No.
you're,
No, I'd put Be Ready Woodland Hills as just a community group as the description.
Community volunteers, I think, would be.
That's just
in
my
the
thought.
description.
okay. I mean, any other comments on that? Okay,
So that's all I had to say.
Okay, Emily, I've got a really important one on page 3.
Okay. To it.
Really. It is 1.4.2 right after this CEMP just has two S's.
Oh,
That's it for me.
We're all reading so fast, our brain just kind of skips over some of those.
1.4.2.
Correct. Yeah, it's on like 4 lines down. It says this CEMP was written and was
Was written.
written.
Okay, I fixed that.
And then that blah blah.
Correct. What page was it on again?
The blah blah.
Yeah.
Page 36, 5.1.1.
Okay.
All right. Well, then with those changes, any other input or?
By the way, I highly recommend all the the FEMA IS things. If you haven't done those, please go do those. Communications, we learned a lot during 9/11 communications, and that's really what that deals with, and the structure of how things work. So
That's a
something
good
that we're
suggestion.
required to do in the fire department, and it's really good in the case. Do it now before we have another.
Agreed.
We have
Yeah.
some very good training through iTrain.
Yeah. I'd just like to say, you know what, Emily, thank you so much for all that you've done, Carrie, for bringing this all up, and then the whole planning team has spent hundreds of hours going through every single word of this, and it wasn't easy, especially just even
Really,
on the
really good.
scheduling side. It was
Really
very
good.
comprehensive. But
There's a lot
Emily,
more work to do, but
especially
it's
thank
really
you,
good.
you and you know the whole emergency management at the county levels team. We appreciate it. Thank you.
Of course, our pleasure. We're so glad you guys chose to participate in our pilot program and that we were able to get a plan together for you guys. I'm so proud. I'm so proud of you for finishing
Yeah,
So
really the
Emily-
finish.
for a minute there. But
Emily,
good.
so because this was a 3-year pilot program and now we're finishing, coming in on the end of the second, what do we anticipate for our part in the 3rd year? I know it's to kind of check it out and see if there needs to be any revisions or any changes or whatnot to that. So how do you anticipate us doing that in this last year of the pilot program?
So this actually is the 3rd year. So the program ends in December. But we're really hoping and optimistic that we'll get some permanent positions at the county to continue to help you through this process, because this is just the beginning, is getting your plan written and approved and implemented. And then comes training. Everybody needs to learn what's in it and what their responsibilities are. There's further planning that you can do, writing and putting together EOC guides, position checklists for all of the people who will be in the EOC. And that's all stuff that the county can help you with and guide you through. We have subject matter experts that can help you with all of your exercises and training and planning. And then when there is a response, we're always here to help support you guys. So that's what we're hoping for January, is to have some permanent positions to continue. You guys have been very successful, and so you've helped show, hopefully, the county commissioners that this program is needed and that having this kind of connection between the cities and the county is worth the investment. So thank you for helping us secure our employment.
Our pleasure. All right. Well, thanks for joining us tonight, Emily. And it looks like there are no further questions, so you can have your evening back.
Okay. If everything looks good, then once you have all the signatures, if you could just send that to me over email, and I will put it in the plan and print off. I think we talked about 12 to 15 copies for your city. We'll print and bind them and make them pretty.
Okay. Very good. All right. Thanks again.
Of course. Thank you.
Good night. Yeah.
This is something I've been thinking about. and wonder if this becomes part of this emergency plan that you're talking about now. I remember back when we had the fire, and I asked Craig who was responsible for bulldozing through our backyard and other people's backyards. Was this city? Was it county? Was it Fed? And he's like, county trumps city, Fed trumps county. And I read something in our city documents that there's to be some kind of fire plan. I mean, it always struck me kind of odd that Jeff and I lost over 300 trees. We have the best luge in Utah County, but my hill's starting to slide down from it. We had to clean up all our own trees. Nobody helped us. Didn't they know about the trail, which was wider than the swath that they cut through my backyard? Is there some kind of fire plan that the city has that they let the county know what areas are available to them in fighting a fire? Would that be part of the plan you're talking about?
That's not this plan. This plan is not fire specific, but it is more comprehensive. But, yeah, that masked man has an answer, he looks like.
Well, I don't know that I have an answer, but typically the way these processes go is once the fire happens, there's an incident management team that's brought in to manage the fire. And depending on the level of the fire, that will change over time. And it ended up being a type 1 incident management team that managed our fire, which is a federal team. They ultimately make those calls where they're going to bulldoze. I mean, that line went all the way over through Payson Canyon, that bulldoze line. They're the one who make the calls, and they usually make them, you know, at the incident, because as probably most know, fires are really unpredictable, and until you're in the fire, you really don't know what your strategy is. So the strategies are being made on the moment. So I would say, I think the county's aware of our trail. I don't know what the federal government, well, the Forest Service is. They know about the trail because part of it's theirs, or on their property, I should say. I don't know the county. I know a couple of the county public works guys do, but in the event of a fire, I don't know, that could play into their decision. And I think they knew about it during the fire because their hotshots were using it to go up and down. But the decision to where to bulldoze is something they just make on the, you know, at the time. Even if the trail's there or not, that may or may not influence their decision on what they're doing. So I guess we can give them a pre-plan. Oh, and and they knew about it. They were using it. So yeah,
Okay.
it's,
Yeah. Well, let's hope we never have to find out again, right? Yeah, no, this is a more general emergency response.
Yeah,
Okay.
what you're talking about also is what Emily was talking about. What's our next steps? Is as we develop out those event-based plans as well. So something like that would be more incorporated into potentially something like of that level, not this high level. So their starting point right now.
Okay, so let's move on to item 4, discussion and recommendation to approve the West Lofer Road connection agreement between Woodland Hills and Panthera Development. Wayne, Ted, okay. I didn't know if the agreement side of it, Wayne?
Are they pointing at each other?
Yeah, the points were exchanged. Yeah.
I'll make sure that I have these in the
He's gonna
order.
share his journal with you too.
We've worked this back and forth with Summit Creek and our attorneys and ourselves, working through the agreement. This is where Summit Creek has volunteered to provide the city $110,000 towards the total cost for completion of West Lofer. And we wanted to have agreement in place so that there wasn't any question. Generally, the city is taking responsibility for everything to complete that road. Summer Creek is providing some of those resources, generally no strings attached. Jones DeMille has worked through the design of that road and have completed it. And Ted has been working with some of the property owners adjacent to the road in soliciting, getting easements where easements might be required. As I understand it right now, there's really only, there's 2 easements. Is that correct, Ted? Okay, one is Glenn Anderson, and he's concerned about encroachment on his property is the main thing, and understanding of if there are issues that the city will address those.
Kind
And
of issues do you
primarily overburden that falls onto their property that possibly might be destroying trees or plants or things like that.
It doesn't insure trees. We were able to work out some wording in the agreement. Yeah, we were able to work through some wording in the easement agreement to help alleviate that and put some mechanisms in place to be able to solve it if it does happen. And the final agreement for both the property owners has been worked through, and the final easement agreements have been sent to them for signature now. So we're just waiting for, Glenn and Kathy said they'll probably come in this week and sign it. And the other one's Brad Barlocker, and he's we've negotiated. I've just sent the final one now here for his signature.
Okay. Anything else that you were going to add?
No, any questions?
All right, thank you.
Good.
You might want to just stay put, Wayne. So item 5, discussion and review of the second amendment to the master development agreement for Summit Creek between Panthera and Woodland Hills.
Jody's been working on this a lot too with our attorneys and Summit Creek and their attorneys. Basically, the essence of this agreement is to vacate some of our roads, two specifically, one now, the agreement, one now, and then there'll be another amendment to the development agreement later on as it comes time to develop the second road, which is Eagle Nest. The first road is South Loafer. Last year, there was a similar agreement that we made for an ordinance to be drafted and vacating our roads. That had an expiration date on it, and there was no action taken to do that, so that expiration date came and expired that ordinance. So this is a renewal then of that commitment and that understanding that we have with Summit Creek. And it's not tied into any specific date, but to recording of the particular phase of the final plat where this road exists. So this has been through both attorneys for Summit Creek as well as our own Smith Harkison and us and Summit Creek. So Jody has prepared all the paperwork to have this presented to the council for your concurrence. There's a few minor changes, but the essence of the agreement is the same. The development agreement as well as the ordinance change to accomplish that. We got things a little bit wrong the first time with some state requirements, and those have now been built into this, what we're doing it again, correct way we did it before.
So state requirements for the actual road or for the vacation?
The vacation, and the road is vacated to, this is the issue that we overlooked before and didn't realize it. The road is vacated to the property owners on each side of the road. And so Summit Creek has solicited an agreement with one of the property owners, and the rest of the property owners are Summit Creek or Pantera. So we only have two property owners involved in this, and the private party property owner has agreed to accept the vacation and then turn it over to the HOA because it will be part of the private road network that Summer Creek is developing there in their subdivision. So there's be a number of documents to sign, but they're all related to that process and an agreement.
And then this is also then that intends to file another petition for the vacation of portion of Eagle Nest Drive then is the same type of issue, and will it be, those properties are not yet sold, correct? They're part of the development at this point, so you wouldn't need to worry about the easements at that time. Because
Hey, Buck, you'll have to speak into the microphone.
Sit by you, Wayne. There is a couple lots. No, you can stay there.
so those individuals though are aware that in the future you're going to do this, or?
Yeah. Yep. Yeah, and the matter that he was discussing that was overlooked, to the city's credit, your processes with us filing for this final plat is what brought the issue to light. So the city's got some really good processes in place.
Good.
Hear that, Brian?
Until we don't.
Honestly, it would have, if we wouldn't have caught it, it would have caused us for issues. It would have caused the city issues. It would have caused the landowner issues. So,
Easements before it's sold is much better.
Yep.
Okay, and I know that a lot of hours have been put in, so thanks to both of you. While you're here, do you want, yeah, and Jody too. Well, of course I won't thank Jody. I have to keep with the thanklessness of her position. Yeah. Do you want to just touch on the ordinance too, part of this, item 6? I mean, that's further to this agreement, right?
Yes.
So I don't know if there's anything else to add, if anybody has any comments or questions.
So, just because I'm the new guy here, this is all part of the plan that's been set forth. I mean, you planned on these private roads.
Yeah. They're
you know,
part of
from the
our development
origin of this,
agreement. Yeah. I mean, items 5, 6, and 7 on this agenda are kind of all the same item. We need item 5 and 6 approved with the city to be able to record our final plat, which is what we're seeking with item 7.
And you're taking care of like the plowing and stuff on those
Yes.
private roads,
Yeah,
right?
they'll
That's
be
all.
part
I
of
just
the
wanted to
plan.
make sure that that's all. I didn't notice that in here. I just wanted to make sure that was.
Yeah, and that's a great question. It's all spelled out in our development agreement.
Yeah, and I
which-
figured it was. I'm just a
Yeah.
new guy, so I didn't go through all that stuff
No, it's a
Yes.
great question. Obviously
with all the
not.
questions.
All right, and then, so item 7 then, do you want to just,
Yes.
anything to say regarding that? Oh, here comes the third tenor.
In case things get signed.
Right.
Yeah, he's our backup.
The planning commission has reviewed the plat and approved it, recommending to the city council for the city council's review and approval. I brought a couple of just enlarged
Thank you.
Right at the top here, this is where Loafer Drive intersects with Summit Creek. So that's where this road design has been changed in this final plat from previous versions. It ends in a cul-de-sac, and there's 12 lots that will be built around then this cul-de-sac. There'll be gates as it comes across Summit Creek, and then that gate will control the access to those 12 lots.
Is the gate located where this line is through Drive or where the property
Yes.
line is down there?
No, where it says Wilford Drive, that's where the
Yeah.
gate.
Okay.
hand drawn.
And Ben has it up there on the screen too.
Is there one on the other side of Summit
No.
Creek Drive as well? No? Okay. So
That's where
west,
the new Wilford Drive.
so
goes
west-
into
that's the
that.
one we're
West
about to
Loafer
complete.
will connect unobstructed to Woodland Hills Drive,
Yes.
or Summit Creek,
Summit
right,
Creek.
yeah.
I'll turn the time over to Bucky and Ben for any detail. Answer any specific questions that you might
Yeah, I think Wayne covered the basics. This is part of an old Thousand Oaks plat that's been in limbo, and there's been some infrastructure complete, some infrastructure not complete. So the recording of this and us putting in these improvements fixes the problem that's been hanging out there since about 2005. So I think that's the only thing that would you add anything to that? Yes. Yep. Good question.
Bucky, what is the plan here with the old termination of Loafer onto Bear Hollow?
Yeah, that's a good
With,
question.
because right now it's looking from my satellite view here, it's
Interesting.
dirt, right? And I guess Bear Hollow is still dirt as well, right?
Yeah.
But
No.
it's paved, okay, so then is that area that is currently Loafer Drive, dirt Loafer Drive, will you guys kind of plant some trees? I know the sewer line, I believe, goes through there, correct? And
Yeah.
water, so we'll still need some access for maintenance
Easements.
potentially.
Utility easements?
This, that will be city property. And we have talked, as a city group. Yeah.
Connexes.
We've talked about a little park in there.
Little pocket park?
Oh, perfect.
So that,
Might be
that's
nice.
there
Okay.
for.
How much,
potential
what,
use.
what is the size of that little spot there?
The size of the road, 56
So
feet
50.
wide by, what those lots run?
Probably a quarter acre.
Dan doesn't mind mowing it, does he?
This would be city. This would be a city.
It'll be
road.
like rubber barks. Okay.
All right, any other
And
questions?
then it's over here on, off of this
Let's gotta
side
mow it.
is where we'll, a future,
Yeah.
redo the
Oh, okay.
vacation of Eagle Nest would be continuation here.
Yeah, but the vacation will be where that connects up on Eagles Nest.
Okay.
Yeah.
Mhm.
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah, good question.
All right, thank you.
I think we're up the next item, so you want us to just stay here?
Yeah, if you would.
Hold on. If it's helpful, Wayne, he can pull the plat up on.
Okay,
Well,
yeah.
it's good for us to look at these too.
This is the Ranch Knoll property,
Thanks.
which is the second point of plat to look at, review tonight. This is, as far as location, this is down just before you get to the gate on the bottom, the north part of Summer Creek Drive. There's planned,
Above the gate or below?
Below,
it's above the gate.
oh, above. Oh, yeah. Right
Above the gate, below the mailboxes.
Yeah, that little space.
Yeah, off to
Okay.
the west side.
Oh, okay, yeah.
So there'll be 3 lots planned in here. Lot number 1 and 3 will be connected. So that will be one piece of property. And then the one in the middle is number 2. For your information, Jimmy DeGraffenreid will be doing the development work on this subdivision. There is a common driveway. You can see it up here on the screen that will be giving access to this. This comes off of Summer Creek. Come up here, and this lot will have access to that as well, this one and this one.
So I don't see a number 3
Yeah,
on
so
the
I
other
misspoke.
lot.
I misspoke.
Okay, so there's just
There's
2, just the
lots.
1, 2, but 2
And
kind of then
it's-
goes along that way.
It's connected with number 1. So it's part of number 1 lot. Excuse me,
No,
I'm
number 2
misspeaking
lot.
again.
Okay,
Well,
Yeah, no,
this
number
one
1
here
has like that.
is
And then
connected to number 1.
I mean,
Through the
by that
private
long
road.
piece.
yeah.
that, why is that such a weird lot?
That's the way
Because,
they're designing it.
yeah,
I mean,
Sure.
it just is, so
Yeah.
number 2 is kind of just like a
On
little,
record now, Ben.
island in
It's not an
between.
island, because it ties in with the common, well, if you look, it could be an island, but
Yeah.
the access to it is from this common driveway. It will come off.
So what makes it any different
So
than a flag
lots
lot?
2 and
I
1 are
guess?
kind of hidden then, back off the road. Back off that driveway.
Yes.
Yeah, it's turned a little funny.
It's weird.
North's,
So with 1, then 1 is considered that first part off of Summit Creek Drive, then it kind of comes around 2 and reconnects at 1 there. So what makes it so it's not a long driveway with a flag lot, where the number 1 is?
Because it's connected with
Long
those 2
driveway.
lots. We thought of that, and that initially was an issue, then that was solved with the driveway connecting
Yeah,
those 2 lots.
yeah, and the planning commission pushed us on this too, and we revised this so that it complied with the ordinance, so that it has frontage along Summit Creek Drive and the private drive. That makes it so it's not a flag lot, if I remember correctly.
What's
It's
the
also-
length of that private lot?
that's the building envelope.
Right,
That the whole lot there, it's a 4.32 acres.
right.
So it's
That'd be
no,
so nice.
no flags at all there.
Well, I mean, it's a flag when it comes down, it's connected here up to there. But what is the length of that private drive?
Around
Yeah.
483 feet.
yeah.
So we'll need to put in some hydrants and things along
Yes.
there.
It's shown on the plan.
Okay.
Any other questions?
What's the pond? Is that a current?
It's
No.
a
Land retention.
drain.
Okay.
part of the-
And retention.
Carrie, it kind of seemed like you were still questioning the flag
Well,
lot
it just kind of,
situation.
just making sure for safety reasons, because, you know, a lot of times when people develop these types of lots, it's usually family members that are gonna be living by each other, and then somebody sells, right?
Yeah,
And eventually, I mean, Brian has that at his home, you know, the 2 original owners of the house that he has and the Jordans have were family members that were gonna be there forever. The flag lot goes in, it divides, they're okay, but eventually it changes, and so I just want to make sure that, you know, whoever ends up in the future understands, you know, if they ever wanted to subdivide lot 1 and then have another parcel on that side, would that still be in compliance with our city? Or is that far in closest to Summit Creek Drive, then would that even qualify because of
It's
topography?
non-buildable.
Because we don't have a topo map here, right? So I can't really tell if that would be a subdivided issue, or if it's
So-
more just there's one. Yeah,
To give
it's
you an
probably
idea,
going
you're-
down farther in our things, but I was just going off of what you had there. So just making sure that it's, you know, fire protection, that we have access, that, you know, because that will be a private drive again, that there's adequate fire protection with the fire hydrants for the length of it, and also then just knowledge that there's this kind of island with number 2.
Yeah,
Is
Carrie,
that-
you're looking at
is
that,
it recognized?
that building area on lot 1 to the 2 Summit Creek Drive is an 80-foot in
Right.
a decrease.
I just looked
So
at that
it's,
too.
it drops, there's no way to subdivide or build on that.
Well,
Well-
I would have to go through the city's processes to build.
Yeah.
But just regarding the flag lot, if I understood it right, when the planning commission pushed us on this, very hard, by the way. But when they pushed us on this, a flat, if I remember right, the definition of a flag lot is it has no frontage or access to a public street, where this does.
Because of that section on one that's over there.
No.
So all of those front.
Oh,
Summit
the
Creek
backside,
Drive-
the backside
Yeah.
has it.
So they all have access to a public street. They're just gonna access their driveways through a private drive.
Is that access though, realistic off the backside? If the house is built on the front side with the topography, would they actually be able to have access off of onto Summit Creek Drive?
No, well,
No, but that's not part of the flag lot issue.
I mean,
I mean, at the end of the day, you're just trying to make sure that they've got the ability to fight fires if there's a fire. And if anyone ever wants to subdivide any lots, that they'll understand any challenges associated with it.
Yeah.
Is that?
that's exactly what I was just looking at.
Yeah. And
So if it's been addressed, then it's great.
I mean, we did add fire hydrants from the planning commission, from their review and the engineer's review. So I think the fire thing is applicable or is taken care of. And we're just relying on, this is HOA property. So they're gonna have to deal, if they ever wanted to subdivide these properties, they're gonna have to deal with the HOA and the city.
Okay,
And the HOA doesn't want any houses along the frontage
right.
right there because of how steep that hill is.
Yeah,
I mean, you would not be able to build.
it'd be really tough.
You-
You can build anywhere.
That's
Look at
where
California, you just have to have enough money, right?
that's where the mobile homes concept would come into play. And I don't think the city's gonna approve mobile homes to be put on
So,
Summit Creek
I
Drive.
didn't look here, but what is the grade of that private drive then going off of Summit Creek Drive to number 2, or number 1 on the far side?
It's not that, you know.
Almost
Yeah.
flat?
Yeah, it is.
Okay.
Looking at this, it's clearly.
Yeah, okay, that sounds great then, thanks.
Okay,
Thanks for your concern.
Have you used, has this developer done any other work for you in Summit Creek?
No.
but he stands or sits right behind them. Yeah,
I'm glad we're.
I don't know
we're
if
here
I
then.
trust him, but
Is that guy a backhoe?
He's done a lot. He's done a lot in Woodland Hills, but
They built my last house.
never.
There you go.
It's still standing, people still love it.
yeah, what more do you want?
Wonderful.
Okay, thank you. Right, moving right along to financial matters. Item 9. Chris, item 9 and 10, actually.
Anything unusual on there you need to tell us about?
I didn't notice.
No, and sorry about the April ones. I guess they never went out, but the ones that we've had in May and June kind of trumped those April ones. So no, nothing out of the ordinary.
I mean, I didn't see anything, but I just thought I'd ask.
I didn't see anything abnormal.
Chris and I had a conversation about a couple of items that were wonky. They came, but they got cleared up when June's come in. That was, I mean, other than the capital outlay being a negative, that has to do with our lease, if I'm not, if I remember.
Correct on the snowplow trucks. It was a date issue really by a couple of days. One's in 1 month, one's in another.
So we had some overspends, but then we got money back from the government that took care of that. So we had some negative, we had overspends, and then we have a negative in there that was a little bit screwy, Chris and I talked about, but I think those have been cleared up with Dunes. I didn't see anything past that.
All right. Anything else? Thanks, Chris.
Yep.
To you, Ted, with mutual aid interlocal agreement with Elk Ridge.
We just wanted to bring this to the council's attention. There's really not a decision on it yet tonight, but we met with Elk Ridge. We've had conversations back and forth. Both our cities have the same concerns in public works. Is right now they have kind of one guy that runs their public works, and he's got a few hired hands, but he doesn't really trust to leave them. They're kind of young and new, and we've got 2 hired hands. And so, and I don't trust the one sitting here either. So we have been talking about coverage. For example, when I leave on weekends, I panic all weekend long about a water break or a tank going empty or a pump going down or something like that. And he over in Elk Ridge is the same thing. He panics most of the times when he's off. So doesn't dare go do any camping or anything like that. So we got talking back and forth and thought it'd be nice to put an agreement between our 2 cities in place. And I know their public works guy pretty well. And so that if I'm gone, he can help cover our city or someone from his staff that he would trust. And if he's gone, I can help cover their city. If I'm around, I would just be on call for their city if something comes up. We've talked about, because we have some on-call contractors that we use. We've talked about them maybe signing agreements with those same contractors. So we're both working with the same people. And if they have an issue and I'm on call, I can, or if I'm around for the weekend or whatever, I don't want to call it on call, but if I'm around for the weekend, I call this contractor, say, Elk Ridge, we got a break over there, come and help us. And anyway, so it's just kind of a something to bring to the council. We're going to work through the details of it because there's going to be some financial implication to that. How does that get covered and stuff like that? And what exactly do we each need? So we're working through that, but ultimately want to come up with this, and then that's when we'll probably sit down with the mayors and we'll kind of go through it in detail and start solidifying the discussion, bring it back to council.
Do you think that you'll address, I guess, that the authority to act on, right? What will you have to, put it into place of exactly what is an emergency? Like if we had something and they called the contractor right away and it was a big bill and, oh, we could have waited till Monday, right, or something. How are we going to distinguish that in terms of financial cost that an emergency may have, or if it is even an emergency?
Mainly judgment and experience. And we did talk about that. For example, if we have something go wrong over here and I'm out of town, I mean, that's the first issue, right? If no one's around to figure it out, we need someone to figure it out. Is it really an issue? So that's where someone in town might have a contact for Jerry, because if I'm up on a mountain somewhere and you can't get signal, we can have him as an on-call guy, and his name's Jerry. That's right. And anyway, he would come over and assess the situation and say, yes, this is an emergency. We need to get someone here right away. Or no, we can wait till Monday, wait till Ted gets back and we can figure out what to do then. So it'd be kind of a judgment call on who's ever on call, whether it's an emergency or whether it's not.
Is there a expiration date or anything that we're revisiting of the interlocal agreement? Or is it just kind of in perpetuity?
I plan to return about 10 years, so that's all I really, as long as it's good for 10 years, I'm good.
Well, I'm thinking at one point we've talked about, potentially getting an assistant public works director, right? And that person potentially could fill this need, right?
Yeah, and really what it is, it'd be a rotational then. So it might be something in the agreement we do that, because he's got a couple of guys and they have 3 people they rotate through that are on call, so to speak. But what they find is that it's hard for them to schedule any time off because even 3 guys is hard to cover, and their city's, a bit bigger than ours. And so if we got a full-time guy that could do stuff, it might be the same thing where they'll just kind of rotate if we need someone to rotate in an on-call spot.
I think it's a really good idea.
Fantastic.
Yeah.
Yeah,
I do
it's a
too.
really good idea. We're
All right.
very similar with them too, so,
Yeah,
they're
yeah.
close, but we're also very similar. I think it's a really good idea.
Yeah.
Okay. Well, on that, thank you.
Yep.
Oh, wait. Okay, that's it.
We'll be back up in another minute, but
Yeah.
I'm in between.
So make yourself comfortable.
Okay.
All right. Any further discussion regarding the indemnification agreement between Corbett and the city?
No, I think we're good. I'm good.
Quit looking at me.
I'm waiting for you to
I
ask
think
something.
We're good.
No,
I'm good.
You're asking good questions.
it appears that our attorneys, his attorneys are good with it and it needs to be signed.
And Corbett has already signed it, so as long as we're good with it, we will have it executed as of tonight. Okay, discussion and review of resolution banning fireworks in Woodland Hills city limits per Utah Code 15A 52025. Wayne, that's you, right? Or Joe, you look at Jody. This is just giving some teeth, right? Okay.
I was gonna say, isn't this already in place?
No,
Just adds a
you
little
have
bit more to
until the vote tonight to go light off some fireworks. And- Yeah, we do.
I'm outta
but this-
here.
This allows more
We-
penalties.
We were looking at our
Increased
ordinance on
penalties.
fireworks and something happened along the way. And the right state codes did not get cited in it. And as we investigated it further, we found out that we never had a resolution, which we're required to do in order to ban fireworks. So,
Yeah, the state added some new,
yeah.
they added some new firework codes in the state.
So what this does is just amends what we've been doing by prohibiting fireworks and establishing going through the right process in doing it.
So, you know, in other in other
Jurisdictions?
ordinances that we've adopted or resolutions where we can say, you know, put the line that if that code is updated, then our ordinance is automatically updated, so we don't find ourselves behind new.
Well, it wasn't an updated thing.
I
It was
know,
completely wrong.
But we know that the state is going to continue because of wildfire risk. They're going to continue to update their firework codes. Is there anything that we can also add that, you know, that we would be, you know, you know, I don't know the lawyer language, but, you know,
So,
that we were in compliance with state codes, firework code.
reading the state code, you have to pass this every year.
Okay,
You
every
have to
year.
have a reasoning for passing it. You have to have
Okay,
the number of years where you've proven a risk and you've done these things, so they're not just letting you do it, so it's just gonna have to be on the calendar that every May 1st, we
okay.
look at. passing it again.
That's great to know because they're going to be updating it a lot, just with continued wildfire risks that are happening. So I'm good with that if we really do update it every May 1st.
Ish.
Yeah. Well, the first council meeting after May 1st, because that's when the state law goes into effect.
Okay, any other comments? Thank you. Item 14, 2024 municipal grant application. Jody, mind? Yep.
She knows everything.
This one, Chris reminded me of at our budget session that we hadn't gotten a recreation grant in the past 2 years. I contacted the county commissioner, Secretary Alice Black. She doesn't know why we were left off the email list of not getting it, the application in prior years. But the county commissioners do let us carry the amounts forward. So this is for $4,000. We need to submit reimbursement for reimbursement. So we submit our receipts and then we'll get reimbursed for it. There's no matching. So it doesn't cost us really anything to do it except writing up.
Paperwork, free money.
Free
That's
money.
That's a yearly grant that we get.
It would be $1,000 a year. Yeah.
So they're back to it, of course. That's great.
Yeah.
That'll almost cover our park.
Thanks, Jody, and thanks, Chris, to both of you for catching that and getting it back in our pockets. All right,
Always a team effort at this place.
it is. Okay, item 15. Yeah. Well, Sherry, do you want to wait till the public comment portion? Because we're about there. Does it relate to this grant? It relates to this
well,
grant?
it relates to money for recreation.
Okay, well,
Do you want me to
I just
wait?
want to keep some semblance of our agenda, so
Okay.
because I want you to be able to comment if there's something that is immediately germane to the discussion, but if this is something that's more general, but how would
No,
you?
it's not really general. It's the agreement that we have with Summit Creek.
Mhm.
If that could be amended to include recreation and not just trails, there would be more money available to the city.
Okay, thank you. Well, now you don't have anything to say during the public comment portion, but, all right. I don't have anything to report. I was out of town for the SESD meeting. I called in for the resource meeting, but did not make the board meeting. So I have nothing to report there. So, Councilmember Hilliard?
Nothing new for the Dry Creek Transfer Station either.
Okay, thanks. Councilmember Hutchings?
We haven't met on either.
Excellent. We're on a roll here. Councilmember Kinnison is excused. Councilmember Lunt?
Just newsletter. It's almost the 20th, so I need stuff for August. By the first of the week, I'm going out of town for the weekend. It's actually my birthday. I'm leaving town. So,
Well, happy birthday,
yeah,
then.
happy getting older. And then, Brian, you're August. You volunteered.
I didn't volunteer. I just took what was.
You
offered.
took the last one.
He was
So
Yeah,
you've
that's
got till
sort of
Monday to
volunteering.
write something really good. And then it could be about fire stuff, safety.
GPT.
Yeah.
Right. Well, I heard there's some words that really tip off a chat GPT paper or article, so we'll be watching for those. I can't remember what they are, but
Oh, yeah. And then Woodland Hills Days is all I have. Just it's coming along really good. We just Summit Creek's gonna come through for us again. Do what they do. We've got everybody in place, so everything's looking really good.
oh, and we are meeting with SESD on Thursday.
Yep,
to
we're meeting
get
with
their contribution.
SCSD on Thursday to get there. We do a little photo op and get a check and shake a hand and yeah.
I keep asking for a giant check, but
It's more of just a little one. Mayor does this and we post it on our page and thank them. So anyway, so yeah, so it's good.
all right, thank you. And Councilmember Malkovich.
And the animal shelter, doing a fraud risk assessment, everything seems okay. One thing that they've decided because of the influx of animals that they're in need of a new building. Been discussing it for several years, but it's getting to the point where it's almost full. And so they're looking at different options. One is going kind of after what they did with the transfer station and have a bond that then the special service district, which we would be a part of, pays that off. They're also looking at a county impact fee, but probably not. They're also looking at a user tax increase in the special service district, which we would be a part of. So there's several options that they're looking at, and they're looking at different plans for a building. Davis County just finished one that was 16.5 million, but they already had the land. So they're trying to decide, does the county already own land that something can go on? Would they have enough space to expand the current system? Or is there, the Public Works is also building a brand new building on the other side of the sheriff, of the jail. And is there additional space over there that they might be able to use? So they're looking at different options for there. There are a lot of dogs and cats in there right now. Over 225 cats, and less than 5% of cats get picked up by their owner. So that's an issue, and that's one of the reasons that they, requested that maybe we do have licensing for cats. Is not for an enforcement issue, but it's more of a be able to get your cat back, because cats are not easy to distinguish where they're from, and so that was one of the issues that got brought up again, and that's basically all.
Just a side note, because I look on their website often, but most of the dogs that they have in there, they're pit pity mixes.
Mm-hmm.
And I'm just gonna say, Saturday night, my daughter and her dog were attacked by a pit bull. And it was super traumatic. And
Oh, wow.
the dog had to be rushed to the dog emergency and had to have surgery, thousands of dollars. Anyway, and that's why there's so many dogs, because if you go and look on South Valley's website, I'm gonna say 80% of the dogs are pit mixes.
Yep.
And people, they're dangerous, or people don't want them or can't handle them, and so that's where they end up. And my daughter, I have Ring camera video of the incident, and it's horrifying. You can hear the screams, and you can hear my daughter screaming, and you can hear the dog screaming, and it makes me sick to my stomach when I listen to it. And they're okay. Everybody's going to be okay, but
But they get a lot of animals that
Scary.
that shouldn't be out, right? Like you said.
yeah.
And then there's the cats. A lot of them are feral cats. And so they still have to go through the protocol of, all the shots and the spay and neuter and all of the stuff that costs money still has to happen on all the strays. So they're just trying to figure out exactly where that is. The other thing is that they wanted to know, a lot of the pet clinics that they do, there are in combination with the area's city days. Now, we've done ours in the past between us and Elkridge, and we weren't getting any people coming, and so they stopped doing the clinics. I wanted to just bring it up in case our Woodland Hills Day Committee would want to have a clinic at all, that we'd be able to set that up and have a section of the park as a clinic to bring your dog in.
I know they could do a booth. For them, I know it's usually a staffing issue because they have to pay somebody to be there.
They just
So-
asked me because they have all of these.
Well, ask them if they want a booth at Woodland Hills Days. We'll give them one for free.
I think a booth's different than a clinic, right?
Well, it sounds like it's a
Well, they
clinic,
were
a
asking if we
clinical
wanted
booth.
to do a clinic
Oh,
where they come and they can get their shots or their licenses or whatever, or chipped. Chipping is a big deal now, especially as they're getting more and more animals.
I mean, probably not at Woodland Hills Days, so that would be up to you.
No, I don't want it. I just said I would bring it up if they wanted to do it, just because that's where we get the most residents gathered in one spot to be able to do this, because they don't want to come up to do a clinic when we only get 5 people.
Yeah.
But if we had.
If they wanted to
large
do a
gathering-
booth for awareness, I'm fine with that, but I agree with Jody. I don't want all the animals up there for Woodland. It'd be too chaotic. Especially with the fire trucks if they do the water hose and sirens and different things. I think it'd be too chaotic. Especially if there's a parade. Yeah, I think it. But if they wanted to do a table or like an awareness clinic, I think that would be amazing.
I think a lot of people are.
And I would give them the booth for free for
Okay.
that. But the actual clinic, I don't think that would be practical.
Okay, great.
All right.
We start advertising for Salem's on our newsletter, find out when Salem's doing theirs, it's not that
Salem's
far.
September 26th.
Yeah, so if we did that, if that maybe just.
Spanish Forks is
Yeah.
September 7th.
Okay, item 16. Anybody have any possible items for upcoming council meetings that they care to raise? All right, then, we were just about to take our break.
Jody, yellow.
Monica, hit him.
This will be just real quick.
Oh, liar.
Just one thing to bring up. Well, depends on how long you guys make it.
You don't have much to say.
Yeah, I don't have much to say. So just be aware, one thing we've been working on the end of October, our radios in our fire department are going to be obsolete. Won't be able to be used anymore. We've been slowly working on building our inventory. We bought 4 last year. We bought the ones for the trucks to replace the ones in our trucks. We still have probably another at least 8 that we need to get to replace our inventory of radios that we have. So I'm going to work on getting a quote for some more just to bring back to the council. So it'll probably be on the next agenda item. Probably look at getting another. We got 4 coming that we ordered back in March. That's how long they take to get. We still haven't got them. So I'd like to get at least 4 more ordered fairly quickly because, like I said, the end of October, our radios are going to be
Still need
obsolete.
the one for engine 192, right?
I've got that one in there.
Okay, you
Yeah.
got that on.
These are already budgeted for?
Well, they would come from our fire budget.
And are these the radios that you got the really sweetheart deal from Spanish Fork or? was it-
They were part of what we've already bought. Yeah, that was kind of when we found those good
can we
deal from
still go
Spanish
that
Fork.
route with this next round? maybe?
No, those were ones that go in our vehicles, and they just happened to have 4 extras, which is just what we needed because they'd over ordered. So they sold us those 4 at their cost, which they got a better deal than we did. So those have all been they've been installed in 3 of our 4 vehicles. We just got the one left in engine 192 to install. I've got it. We just got to put it in.
You got a dual head one?
No, we're going to go with a single head in that one, and then just the engineer will have to do like we do on 191.
You said you're going to buy those in October?
What's that?
You're going to buy those in October?
No, I'd like to come back next council meeting and get approval to order them because we're probably not
So
going
he
to get them
wants it
for
on the
6
agenda
months.
is what he's saying.
Yeah, one on the
Can
agenda.
we buy those through Spanish?
So what you're saying is you took one meeting off of asking for money?
No, I just asked for money.
To directly ask.
To directly ask for money. Yeah, yeah. We're going to try
I
and
mean,
see if
that's
we
kind
can.
of your job, right? You have to ask for things.
Yeah, I mean, we've got to keep things running, right? And
Right.
It's unfortunate it takes money to keep things
And
running,
how much
but
are
Dang
those
it.
for?
the radios are about 3,500 a piece. So we're going to try and get 4 of
I
them.
have to give you a hard time.
The last 4 we ordered were like 15 grand. Well, and I apologize for the in and out. Our brush truck is broke down on the top of Skyline right now, so we're trying to figure out how to get off
The new one?
Skyline. No, the one that our wildland crew goes out on.
They're out right now.
They're out on a call
Oh.
or out on a wildland
That
assignment.
happened last year
Yep.
And year before that.
and the year before.
And this one they couldn't get running, can't get a tow truck to it. So we're trying to figure out how to get it off Skyline right now. So
It's where?
Skyline,
Skyline,
not in the city, Skyline.
I heard Sky Lake, and I'm like,
top of Skyline.
Hey, Ted, have you called Alexander's Towing? He's a friend of the fire department. He might go get it. He's got a flatbed.
Oh, does he? We had one.
It'll cost us a pretty penny.
He's a
Yeah.
friend of mine too, actually a really good friend. So
Send me their contact. We just sent one flatbed up there who called and
I
said he
have it.
couldn't get there. Who's actually my cousin's husband that owns Johnson Towing out of Salina. But he thinks it was more because his truck was having issues than it was not being able to get to it with the flatbed.
okay, I'm sending you their contact right now.
Call Diesel Brother.
Yeah. Well, then we got to get it dropped
Made a
off
very
somewhere.
interesting video on the
I
process.
was trying to see if I could find a mechanic to run the party.
Actually, call Diesel Brother.
Okay, I just sent
Thanks,
it to
Ted.
you.
We'll let him
Go
video
right
it if they
now.
get it and fix it, huh?
if you need it, call me and we can make that happen if we have to.
All right, why don't we
Okay, Craig up there.
resume at 8:20 and get the council meeting going then.
Okay.
Hey, I could send a Blackhawk up there.
Yeah, no.
Okay, we will call tonight's city council meeting to order and ask if Ben would kindly give the invocation and Brian, if you will lead us in the pledge.
Our dear Father in heaven, we are so very grateful to come together as the elected officials of this wonderful city. We're grateful for our wonderful residents, for their kindness, for their collaboration, and for their willingness to make Woodland Hills such a great place. At this time, though, we pray that thou wilt pour out thy spirit and thy love and a blessing of healing on Doral and his wife, and that they may be protected. Let them know that we are thinking of them. Pray that thou wilt continually watch over us. Bless us and protect us and our dear residents, that they may be safe, successful, and taken care of. And we say these things in the name of thy Son, Jesus Christ. Amen.
Amen. Thank you.
Everyone, please rise. Repeat after me.
I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. Thank you. Okay, and now we open the public comment portion of our meeting.
Sherry?
Okay, no, that's good to know. I mean, we've tightened security up there. We've got cameras and alarms, and I'm not aware of the no trespassing signs missing, but we'll certainly look into it.
And to add to that, I've got complaints again from citizens that live by the park about kids, young girls in the back seat of cars at 4 a.m. And I always tell him to call the sheriff, but he's telling me now that he's sick and tired of me telling him to call the sheriff. I'm not sure what else we can do, but he said he was going to the gym at 4:30 a.m. and there was a girl passed out in the back seat of a car. And yeah.
Give it to like the noise ordinance. Not-
But anyway, just, I don't know if
That's
there's
'cause I
anything
think it's
else
like
we
dusk
can
to
do.
dawn or something.
Well, you could go and
But we
I'm
should
awake
still
about
have
your
that.
them-
rights.
Why can't we have them call non-emergency dispatch?
Well, that's what I've told him, but he just doesn't, I think a lot of citizens think that we're the police officers of town and that we're
Oh, yeah.
supposed to
Call
drive
for them.
around and you call me and yep, I'll get up at 4:30 and I'll drive over there and tell him to go home. Call
Well,
the sheriff.
Yeah, I mean, that's
Supposed to.
the channel through which those sorts of complaints should be going.
Yes.
We can
especially
talk
because-
about it in our staff meeting tomorrow. It's hard for me to imagine Sergeant Dutson saying, "Don't call me."
No, he would never.
Isn't that what you said?
No, the
No.
residents.
The
say-
resident.
The
doesn't
resident's
wanna
not
call the
calling and
sheriff.
putting.
Oh,
The
the resident
resident doesn't want to call the sheriff.
Oh, well,
So, and I told him, I said, that's literally 90% of what they do for us. If you call me, I will just call the sheriff.
But the sheriff's office isn't supposed to take.
I said,
stuff
they
from-
spend most of their
from
time
us
up here
if we're not
sending
violating.
teenagers home.
huh,
I mean, that's true. That's the big part of what he does is send teenagers home.
yeah.
Parking and that's because they're usually in another city.
Yeah, I mean, and I mean,
haven't
we
gotten
do
around
have
to
to
it yet.
consider the severity of the incident. I mean, it's something that we don't need a SWAT team up here because of
He wants us to pay, he said he would like, could we pay a small amount to the Summit Creek security guard? I'm saying this because Ben's here. Could we pay a small amount to the Summit Creek security guard to come by a few times throughout the night?
For teenager awareness.
well, and all the security guard can do is call the police.
No.
So all we've done is add a step.
We have been doing some courtesy drive-bys over on Christmas Circle for it. But other than, like, I said, there's not a whole lot that they're just kind of teenagers that we see, I mean, like, say, you know.
Yeah.
But they come down the bike, right? I get teenagers down the bike.
Right.
So they patrol that quite a bit. I don't think that way. That show up.
Well, and I know on some of the roads, the neighbors have set up cameras and they've gotten a little aggressive. They'll walk up with flashlights and tap on the window and say, go home.
Yeah.
We've,
Do
we've
you
given
think
them
this would be
cover.
something that maybe our neighborhood watch group could.
Yeah, I know. I was thinking
maybe
that the
they
neighborhood
can-
watch is probably,
Can consider, and that they could maybe.
Particularly in the summer, I
At
think
least in
more
the summer, yeah.
patrols around the
that they
park.
could maybe set up their own patrol system and just as a drive-by and, you get those little magnet things on the side of whoever's patrolling so that they know it's.
But we
neighborhood
don't have a
watch.
neighborhood watch though.
Well, we started one with regard.
But you
with
changed
parts
the
of-
name, remember?
With parts, no, it was just, it was a section of the Be Ready.
Yeah, no,
Woodland
we're
Hills.
working on the neighborhood watch. That is,
Yeah. falls
Jody,
under
what'd you
Doral.
say?
They, and I didn't know this, they go out to all the surrounding communities, police officers. And so if it's important, Salem or Payson or Spanish Fork will respond. But on something like that, where it's just a suspicious car parking, they'll ask for a license plate. And when it's time to get to it, it's time to get to it. But it's not safe for a resident. We don't know who's in the vehicle. We don't know what's happened. It's not safe for them to be approaching it, even the neighborhood watch. I don't
Yeah.
think.
Neighborhood
No.
watch isn't supposed to approach it.
Right, they're just supposed to.
Okay.
Kind of.
So they would call the cops
They
just
call the
like our,
cops and
our
get-
residents
yep,
would.
make
So
them
it
safe.
might be an education thing. And
Maybe they
more
Well,
than
could just
it's
call the
mostly
cops
people
with
from
the
other cities that are
license
coming
plate
up.
number.
Yeah.
You take your other car and flip on the other lights? I haven't done that yet. Although it's really crazy.
Something's on fire.
All right, well, that's
Sorry, I had to.
fair input. So with respect to the no trespassing signs, we'll take a look at that. No, that's good to know. And then with respect, I think you have to set appropriate boundaries with this resident, Janet, and tell them that you're not the go-between, that they
'Cause
just need
the
to take it
message
directly
came
up.
in at 4:30 a.m. too. I was
Oh,
like,
Have you heard of Do Not Disturb? It's a setting. It's right there on your
I have
phone.
adult children that I keep it. Yeah.
Yeah.
You can put them in your favorites, and it'll bypass Do Not Disturb, and everybody else doesn't.
Okay. They are.
Well, see?
They are. in
Don't
my
tell me we're not
favorites.
coming up with solutions in the
I
city
like
council
it.
meeting. All right.
I'll send him another message and tell him we talked about it. And give him some ideas.
Okay. All right. Thank you. Well,
Well, I guess you could also write an article for the newsletter on it and just say, if you see suspicious cars, call this non-emergency number. If you just think it's kids making out.
yeah. Okay.
Just so
Well,
residents know that, who to call besides us.
all right. So with that, we'll close the public comment portion and move on to items 21 and 22. The May and June city council meeting minutes.
I move we approve the meeting minutes for May and June.
Okay, so a motion by Councilmember Hutchings to approve May and June city council meeting minutes,
I'll second that.
seconded by Councilmember Hilliard. All in favor?
Aye.
Any opposed? Okay, that motion carries. Item 23, Resolution 2024-23, adopting a comprehensive emergency management plan, CEMP.
I'll make a motion to do that with the amendments that we gave to Emily today.
Okay, a motion by Councilmember Malkovich,
I'll second that.
seconded by Councilmember Hilliard. All in favor?
Aye.
Any opposed? That motion carries. Item 24, authorization for me to sign the contract between Hall Engineering and Woodland Hills for the West Loafer Road Connection Project.
I'll make a motion that we approve the signing of that.
Okay.
agreement.
I'll
Okay.
second it.
A motion by Councilmember Lunt, seconded by Councilmember Hutchings. All in favor?
Aye.
Any opposed? Okay. Item 25, authorization for me to sign the West Loafer Road Connection Agreement between Woodland Hills and Pantera Development.
I'll make a motion.
Motion by Councilmember Hilliard,
I'll second.
seconded by Councilmember Malkovich. All in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? Item 26, authorization to sign the Second Amendment to the Master Development Agreement for Summit Creek between Pantera and Woodland Hills. Motion by Councilmember Hutchings,
I'll second it.
seconded by Councilmember Lunt. All in favor?
Aye.
Any opposed? Item 27, approval of ordinance 2024-20 vacating a portion of South Loafer.
I'll make a motion.
A motion by Councilmember Hilliard,
I'll second it.
seconded by Councilmember Lunt. Councilmember Malkovich,
Yes.
Councilmember Hilliard,
Yes.
Councilmember Lunt,
Yes.
and Councilmember Hutchings.
Yes.
Ben?
I did.
Sorry,
Moving too fast.
yeah, I know. I told you, Jody, I'm up against a chicken sandwich clock.
He's hungry.
Yeah,
When did they close?
not till 10.
Oh, dear.
But we've already
Surely.
we've done our closed session, so unless somebody
Nope.
requests another one. All right, item 28, final plat approval of Summit Creek G1 Phase A, the retreat, final plat.
I'll move.
Okay, a motion by Councilmember Hutchings,
I'll second it.
seconded by Councilmember Hilliard. All in favor?
Aye.
Any opposed? Motion carries. 29, final plat approval of Ranch Knoll, final plat.
Don't look at me. It's a weird one.
Okay, well, going once. Okay, no motion made, so that motion does not carry.
So what do you do in that case?
Yeah, I want to look at it more.
Okay, so is it
Motion to
some,
table?
yeah, is this something that you just are not willing to approve, or is it something that you want to investigate further?
It's just weird.
So I was at planning commission and I understood the objections that were brought up. It's just, I want to make sure that the planning commission is good with what was, didn't they make changes? Didn't you guys make changes to this after planning commission based on the planning commission's
Everybody agreed
input?
to the change.
Yes, and I want to make sure, because what I had in my head, now I didn't have the plan in front of me at that meeting, but what I had in my head is not what I'm seeing here. This was a little bit different than what I was expecting, to have those two broken up lots. Just,
Yeah, it's just sort of different.
it's really different, and I'm happy to go with what the planning, myself, I'm happy to go with what the planning commission says, but I want to make sure this is what everybody had in mind, because it wasn't what I had in mind. Now, they had the plans in front of them, so it's different for them, but I'm kind of, if this is really what they had in mind and what they approved to pass on to us, then I'd be happy with it. And I would vote for it, but
And I guess one of my questions is why does that first section of the private drive, why is that connected to parcel 1 instead of just a continuation of number 2? It seems like it would be okay if that was all number 2 and this was all number 1 instead of that making number 2 the island. I guess that's,
and is the drive a easement for number 1, or is it easement for number 2? Some
It
of those
belongs to
things
number 1.
Belongs to number, so it's an easement for number
To number
2, a permanent
2.
easement for number 2.
kind of an
Correct.
island. I still think of it as an island.
I live with an easement for my driveway, so I've got no problems with that. It's kind of funky, but
When it
That's
comes to
because all it takes is Jordan's to sell to somebody who aren't as cordial
it's a
as
permanent
Jordan's.
easement. They can't take it.
Right,
away.
they can't take it, but you know,
It
it's
still gets-
removal
They
of
can make
snow and
it
it's upkeep.
miserable.
Oh, yeah, they make it miserable. That's why I plow their driveway.
We see how
I
it
keep them
works.
happy.
So is
Yeah.
there a reason why, I guess, Ben, is there a reason why that little first parcel isn't part of 2, why it is a part of 1?
It is part of, it's part of 2.
It's part of 1 is what was explained.
Correct. 2 is a separate lot,
It's an
Yeah.
island.
and the first, no,
No,
because it's tied, it has, with the easement, it's not an island.
Okay, yes,
Well-
but that first part of this part right here is part of number 1's lot because it comes around.
One is a U shape.
It's a U shape.
Yes.
One to U shape.
Yeah, that's what's,
Yeah.
that's what's holding
That's
us
what
up.
that's what threw my
That's
mind
what's throws-
off
throwing
when
us
I
off.
pictured-
The
That
developer
better one.
wants to retain those two pieces of property.
But once that second piece in the middle as a separate thing.
I think for most of us, for me, our packet was so big tonight, and yeah, we got it 24 hours, but I was trying to read everything.
I read it over, but it's still just.
I didn't have time to like, I don't know. This one is just
Digest
weird.
it.
Yeah.
It is a little different.
I don't think we have any other lots in town that do this. Right? Well, no, it's
No,
just that
not
it-
necessarily.
It's
You're
just
right.
that it's,
I-
it's something that we haven't really ever looked at, because as we go forward, you know, and a private drive there, yes, and
So, I mean,
although they
really,
all go to Summit Creek, topography doesn't let them have access out to Summit Creek. It's only on that one drive.
Hey, Dad, just make sure you're talking to the microphone. Let's get this on the record.
That's not unique. There's another one.
it's the U that's unique.
Yeah, the U is unique.
But I would say that, I mean, I don't, do we have the authority to just tell a property owner?
Complies with all our ordinances and codes. Right, so I don't know that.
That's what prevents it from being a flag lot is the U. I mean,
Yeah.
in all honesty, as
Otherwise
long
it
as
would
they
be a
don't
flag
try to
lot.
sell off that first section to build a small home. Yeah. They can't.
It goes against the ordinance because of the flag.
Yeah, so it would turn it
And-
into a flag.
I don't think they can build on that first piece because of grades, correct, Ben? It's too
There's a
steep.
little building envelope on it, isn't
can
there?
always
Come on
build on
up,
anywhere.
if you would,
You
Ben.
can build on anywhere.
Sorry, this is.
Look in California, coastline.
Yeah, so the answer is yes. To your question, that first piece, the topography.
It's too slow.
Gets beyond that 30%.
So it's basically providing essentially kind of a green belt, right? I mean,
Sure.
it's more
Yeah.
of a buffer between the road and the homes,
Yeah.
I suppose.
So
Right.
why do they want to keep it then? You said the owner wants to keep
Because of
one
the flag
for
lot.
you
It's a
shop.
flag lot if we did it the other way.
And yeah, he just wants to remain kind of some control over what happens there, right? Just coming into it is all.
When that was originally presented to us, it was presented as a flag.
Yes, Lori brought it up. She's
Right.
the one that caught
And
it.
that was, but realized that can't do that. Or, again, it's a flag lot. So there was another proposal made to extend lot number 2 to Summit Creek Drive. And that would have eliminated the flag lot, but it would divided lot number 1 with the other smaller piece of property. So after the fact, when we were sitting around talking about it, I say after the fact, after the planning commission meeting, thought, well, there's a simple solution, is just use that drive then as a common drive and an easement belonging to property owner number 1, and that ties property, no lot, with number 1. So that eliminates the flag lot issue then with number 2, having that easement coming through and going all the way down to Summit Creek. So as we looked at it, there's no ordinances that are being violated. It complies with our ordinances. It is a little different configuration. So are quite a few of the lots that Summer Creek is doing with their design of
Oh, yeah.
of their subdivisions and so forth.
So what?
And I get, so on my side, I get it, but it's different than what I envisioned after the planning commission.
I guess what was your envision? The question is, has that been addressed, I guess?
Yeah, and it covers everything. I just want to make sure that, I mean, many eyes, right? Yeah.
So what size of the lots?
Well,
Like
it
not lot
was,
number 2,
there
what's
were
its
changes made, there was no
acreage
drawings.
size? Is it a
of the changes that
0.75?
were
Is it a
made.
1 acre?
Right, but what was presented here tonight, that's, yeah, that's
Yeah,
the
that's
final.
the final, but I don't know the planning commission ever saw this drawing.
Well, I don't think they have. It got approved.
I can
They
see
don't
it.
have to, you're right,
That's what Wayne's job.
but I'm having a hard time
That's what Wayne's job is, to make sure those changes get made.
stepping up and saying, make a motion
So you
when,
gotta
when
trust
it's.
that Wayne.
Well, and once we
Well-
have a plat though, I mean, as we've seen in other areas, once you have the plat approved and it's ready to go, then, you know, the future owners of these, whether it's the original owner or the future owner, they come back and say, okay, did the council do all they could to make sure that, you know, health, safety, welfare was considered? And it appears that you're saying it is. It just feels weird to have this U-shaped configuration with this number
and I
2
saw it.
in the middle. Just doesn't seem, I don't know, there's just something that doesn't seem. It,
Yeah, I think that we're overstepping if we,
We'll be in violation.
yeah,
well,
weird
just
is
to make
not,
sure-
it's
I mean,
not
just to make
grounds
sure that
to.
safety-wise, that it really is.
I think it does, I think we've
Complies.
covered everything, I don't know all of our building codes like the planning commission. Yeah.
We've got utility easements off that right.
Yep,
I'll make a motion.
Okay. All right, so a motion to approve by Councilmember Lunt,
I'll second it.
seconded by Councilmember Hutchings.
I have one more discussion
Sure.
in between the two motions there then. So Ben, to you, in this then, it's with this private drive, with the easement, permanent easement. And that will be the private drive owned by number 1, lot number 1. And is it in there somewhere that number 1 has to stay with number 1, that will not be able to be subdivided in the future? I mean, because somebody's going to come and try to subdivide that, whether they can really do it or not.
The
first
front
number
piece
1,
from the
front
back
piece.
piece.
Even though topography says no, is it going to be in there that it needs to stay with number 1 because of that flag lot ordinance that we have? So is it stipulated on the plan that will always, that first number 1 will always have to stay with second number 1?
We could
Well-
include that as a note.
But,
would like
but,
to-
I mean, but again, that's something where,
Well-
They can do that, still meet all our city ordinances.
They can't.
Can't forget them.
but if someone if the future council changes the flag lot requirements, then that is a possibility. This is what we were talking about earlier. We can't handcuff future councils.
No, we can.
As long as it
We can. We've done that before.
On land use, it's
We've
different.
done it with Bell subdivision. We've put a note on the final plat that says they can or can't do certain things that otherwise they could.
Unless they can meet.
And they've agreed.
But I'm with Ted on this one. I think that if
I
they're
think that would
complying
be
with whatever the
overstepping. I
ordinance at
agree.
the time states, they should be able to subdivide it.
They can't do it unless they can comply. They can do it if they comply with city ordinance.
Yeah.
That way
So again, they could split it off, they just couldn't build unless it applied with city ordinance. Because my flagpole was deeded away, which left me an island.
Property owner rights or weeds.
Well,
But there's
right,
no
it's
building,
not
so it didn't
about that. It's
require
about,
anything to go through the
it's
city.
about our current ordinance.
But thi-
So we're
this-
not thinking about
But the-
future ordinance here.
But
We're
it
talking
complies
about
with our current
current.
ordinance.
Right now,
The
Right now,
developer, the
it would not
developer can
comply.
agree to certain things. It's his property right now, and he's developing it. And if he wants to have an agreement that he can't do certain things that he otherwise could do, he can agree to that.
But can we require the developer to do that? When we don't have an
No,
ordinance that
But
says
we
that
can
the
say,
developer
fine,
has
unless
to
you
do it.
don't want to do that, we're not going to approve it.
But what grounds do we have to not approve it if there's
Because
not an
we're the
ordinance?
city.
Huh?
Because we're the city, really. It's
well, we don't
simply
want to be
said.
arbitrary. We
It's
don't want to
simply
be
said.
arbitrary. That's not the point. The
But-
point isn't being arbitrary. The point is to say have a note on there. I would be okay
Unless
with
it
a
meets the
note.
current ordinance. I would add that to that sentence. Because at the time they subdivide it, if the ordinance is changed, they can legally do it. I should be stopped. You
Yeah.
don't have the right to stop it. Put it out.
Well,
I think you
Only
had a
if we-
motion and a second. We need to carry
Yeah.
on with that vote.
Did
Well, there's
you,
discussion.
did you have
Yeah.
your questions? I mean, if you want.
Well, I do like the idea of a note on there just because I think that, again, that's our current ordinance. We don't allow flag lots because this is now a U-shaped lot is the only reason it's not a flag lot. And because of that, then I think that needs to be stipulated in a note somehow, that we're approving it on that recognition that a flag lot is, you know, whatever the wording you want to put on there. So
Okay,
that
but
it
let's-
maintains that.
So
With your motions.
We have to vote this.
We have to
motion
vote.
Yeah,
down.
so is your motion, do you concur with Carrie? Do you concur with Carrie on this? Do you want the note as a stipulation, or do you want it as? written?
Everything has to go through planning anyway. I
They
mean,
couldn't build.
they can't do it without Wayne's approval.
Okay, so we have a motion and a second
Yes.
still, right?
Correct.
Okay,
We can make it conditional on
But we're
such
not-
a.
that's
but we
that's
don't
what
need
he's
to,
asking.
because Janet and Brian
Well,
don't
that's up to
require.
them.
Yeah. Okay,
I don't.
so now, all in favor?
Aye.
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 I'm going to vote no unless we put the note on.
Okay, so that motion carries. And that's
Can I
it.
make a motion to put the note on now?
No,
I
we've
pass.
already-
All right. Item 30, Resolution 2024-24, adopting the April 2024 check disbursements.
I'll make a motion.
Okay, a motion by Councilmember Hilliard,
I'll second.
seconded by Councilmember Hutchings. All in favor?
Aye.
Any opposed? Okay. And item 31, Resolution 2024-25, adopting the May 2024 check disbursements and financials.
I'll make a motion.
A motion by Councilmember Lunt,
I'll second it.
seconded by Councilmember Hilliard. All in favor?
Aye.
Any opposed? All right, item 32, authorization for me to sign the indemnification agreement between Corbett Stevens and Woodland Hill City.
I'll make a motion.
A motion by Councilmember Malkovich,
I'll second it.
seconded by Councilmember Lunt. All in favor?
Aye.
Any opposed? Item 33, Resolution 2024-26, banning fireworks in Woodland Hills city limits per Utah Code 15A-5-202.5.
I'll
I have
make
a
motion.
question on this real quick, actually.
Okay?
So per this is a resolution. I know we said that the state's law requires that we pass a resolution for banning this. Are we also then going to, because you said the ordinance was, did I understand that correctly, Wayne? The ordinance was actually wrong? So do we need,
The numbers referenced in the.
Wayne? Hey, Wayne? You gotta, thanks, you guys.
so I guess my question is, are we gonna then also need to do an amendment to that ordinance in the
This,
future
this
as well?
does that.
This
This
replaces.
This
resolution-
corrects that.
So this resolution amends the ordinance? Are we able to? Okay, is our my question is our ordinance currently incorrect?
What,
We don't have an ordinance?
We have in city code, in one of the titles, that references no open.
Okay, so,
Blah, 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 but it doesn't.
so this clarifies that further to specify,
We have a note of that. somewhere, what
Fireworks.
ordinance that is.
so, but would it make sense for us potentially in the future to put in there no fireworks? Or
As
does
an
that,
ordinance
a
instead of
redundant?
just a resolution?
Okay,
Oh, so we're doing what the state.
if we're good, we're good. That's just what I want to
But
make sure we're not
don't-
amending an ordinance or
can I
anything.
get some clarification? Don't we need to change that number in the ordinance? don't we? In our city ordinance? They're one and the same, are they not?
Yeah,
Or-
ordinance and code.
No, because you have Title I, Title II, Title III
Right.
of our city code. So you would need to change the city code title, title.
Okay.
Does that make sense?
Do we need to do that in the future?
So if you have Title 10.
Okay, so
This was the important one.
so we need to do this. There will be another step in the future when we. Okay, perfect. That's what I wanted to know.
This still allows
Update ordinance
finding
and
and
then change
everything
city code.
else for the sheriff's department, right?
Yeah.
Okay, I'll make a motion to pass resolution 2024-26 banning fireworks.
I'll second.
Okay, motion by Councilmember Hilliard, seconded by Councilmember Malkovich. All in favor?
Aye.
Any opposed? And item 34, authorization to sign the 2024 municipal recreation grant application.
I'll make a motion.
And I'll second it.
Motion by Councilmember Hutchings, seconded by Councilmember Lunt. All in favor?
Aye.
Any opposed? All right, well, if there's nothing further, we can get a motion to adjourn.
I'll make a motion that the mayor can go get his chicken sandwich through an adjournment.
Thank
second
you.
it.
All right, as written. All in favor? Okay, we're adjourned. Thank you, Chris. See ya.